After 7 years of marriage, my husband Sushing fell for Linyu, the new accountant at his company. He said, meeting her made me understand what true love really is. In the name of this so-called love, he let Linyu harass my terminally ill aunt to death and locked our 4-year-old daughter in a car, suffocating her. Devastated beyond despair, I drove my car into Sushing and Linyu, ending all our lives together. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself transported back 7 years, to my wedding ceremony with Sushing. After reciting the lengthy vows, the officiant asked, Mr. Sushing, do you take Miss Shin Yulin to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? Sushing froze momentarily before abruptly wrenching his hand from mine. I don't, he stated coldly. I lowered my head, struggling to contain the turbulent emotion swirling in my eyes. What a coincidence, I don't want this either. The crowd erupted in murmurs, guests whispering among themselves. Never expecting such a scene at a wedding, the host's smile froze, completely unprepared for the groom's sudden change in demeanor. After an awkward pause, he quickly shifted gears. Oh dear, seems our groom needs a moment to collect himself. Let's give him some space with a song, as music filled the air. The host shot us meaningful glances, urging us to resolve our dispute discreetly rather than becoming a spectacle. Though well-intentioned, Sushing rudely snatched the microphone. My apologies for wasting everyone's time. This wedding is cancelled. Let me make this crystal clear. I, Sushing, would rather see every woman on earth perish than marry Shin Linyu. He glared at me with undisguised loathing. Shin Linyu, don't you dare dream of becoming my wife in this lifetime. With that, he tossed the microphone aside and strutted off the stage with arrogant satisfaction. But he'd forgotten, this wasn't 7 years later, and he wasn't yet the revered CEO Su everyone fawned over. Before he could step off stage, a figure rushed at him like a whirlwind and delivered a stinging slap across his face. Su, say one more word if you dare. Think our Lin Lin is an easy target, huh? The woman wore an elegant red qipao with flawless makeup, her corsage marking her as part of the bride's family. 1 slap wasn't enough. Before Sushing could react, she struck him again with a backhanded blow. You scumbag, begging to marry Lin Lin not long ago, and now you show your true colors. What's this all women in the world nonsense? You think you're some emperor handpicking concubines? The woman's furious outburst snapped bystanders to attention, and they rushed to separate the two. Whether the peacemakers went easy on her or underestimated her combat skills, Sushing ended up taking a few extra kicks during the scuffle. Watching her fiery energy, I finally broke down and cried out, Auntie. Hearing my voice, my aunt, who was just rolling up her sleeves ready for action, immediately turned around and hugged me, whispering comfortingly, Don't cry, Lin Lin, that good-for-nothing doesn't deserve you. Who wants to marry trash anyway? Cheer up, I'll find you someone much better. Nestled in my aunt's arms, listening to her strong heartbeat, my tears streamed down uncontrollably as my lips trembled speechlessly. It had been so long since I'd seen my aunt looking this healthy and vibrant. My parents died unexpectedly when I was 4, though barely in her 20s. My aunt selflessly took me in without hesitation, even breaking up with her first love to raise me, and never marrying afterward. I gave up my stable job to start a business with Sushing. Though Auntie scolded us for being reckless, she secretly did everything she could to support us financially. When we hit rock bottom and nearly went bankrupt, she sold her house and worked herself to the bone to help us pull through. Auntie was always kind to me, and Sushing owed her his life's greatest debt. But that ungrateful bastard Sushing actually stormed into Auntie's hospital room with his mistress Linyu, spilling all our secrets and literally shocking her to death. They even had the audacity to say during our confrontation, she was already dying from her illness. Yaya just helped her find peace sooner. Thankfully, I've been reborn. My aunt is still in good health at this point. Close call, really close. Wiping away tears, I confronted Sushing. So you're really calling off the engagement? Is that final? My eyes were still red and swollen from crying so hard earlier, my voice hoarse. I looked every bit the picture of heartbreak. The crowd shot Sushing disapproving looks. A flicker of guilt crossed his eyes, but vanished instantly. He took a deep breath. Shin Yulin, let's call off the engagement. Don't make a scene, it's undignified. I grabbed my aunt's arm to stop her from lunging at him, lowering my lashes to hide my expression. Fine, the engagement's off. Let's see how Sushing manages to grow his company without me, or enjoys his true love happily ever after. Sushing and I were college sweethearts, dating since sophomore year, each other's first love. After graduation, Sushing clashed with his boss within 6 months and quit to start his own business. His parents divorced and remarried others when he was very young, then completely cut him off after he came of age. He even had to cover his college tuition through student loans and part-time jobs. When he quit to start his own business, his family offered zero support. My heart went out to him. So I quit my job without hesitation to lend a hand, though clueless about the technical side. I gave my all everywhere else. I single-handedly managed everything at their tiny startup: meals, document organization, bookkeeping, spinning like a top every day. The exhaustion was so severe that I even lost my first child. Sushing knelt by my hospital bed weeping as he vowed, Lin, I swear I'll make something of myself. I'll make you the happiest woman alive." He kept the first half of that promise, but not the latter. In the third year of his startup, when his small studio finally took off, he proposed. Though we faced several crises later on, we leaned on each other and pulled through together. Our small studio grew into a company, expanding steadily as he became increasingly busy. After our daughter Xin was born, my focus shifted more toward family life. Gradually, I stepped back from company affairs. Some new hires didn't even know the boss's wife existed. Sushing grew more distant with me, no longer showing the tenderness he once did. Though somewhat upset, I brushed it off, choosing instead to worry about his heavy workload while keeping our home in perfect order. On our 7th wedding anniversary, he called saying he'd work overtime, then vanished without another word. I watched the feast grow cold on the table, feeling my heart chill along with it. I began investigating the people around Sushing, surprisingly easy to find out, since he wasn't even trying to hide it. A woman named Linyu. He escorted her to exclusive venues, brought her to business partners' galas, and introduced her to his inner circle. They were inseparable, chatting endlessly every day. Everyone around would tease Linyu by calling her sister-in-law, and he'd just smile, never denying it. I told Sushing to watch his step, but he just kept retorting with "You're so petty. You don't understand," and stop making a fuss, clearly annoyed. After I found out he was cheating, I secretly started consulting lawyers about how to protect my interests and get custody of our daughter. I thought the worst that could happen was leaving with nothing but my daughter, but I never imagined he could be even crueler. During the scorching dog days of summer, Xin was running a persistent low-grade fever while I was incapacitated by menstrual cramps. Leaving no choice but to ask Sushing to take her to the hospital, he agreed readily enough, but changed his destination the moment Linyu called. The shameless couple got so wrapped up in their sweet nothings outside that they completely forgot about the young child left alone in the car. It wasn't until I called to check on his daughter that he remembered his original purpose for going out, rushing back to the car in panic, only to find it was already too late. After that, I went berserk, swearing to make them pay. Sushing initially felt some remorse, but eventually threw caution to the wind. The last shred of decency between him and Linyu vanished completely. I was seething with hatred but had to pretend everything was fine. My aunt was battling terminal stomach cancer, and I didn't want her worrying about me in her final days. Sushing had explicitly promised not to drag our feud into my aunt's life, yet at Linyu's instigation, he took her to my aunt's hospital room when I wasn't there. The two tried to pressure me by provoking my aunt, but little did they know the news of Xinin's death and my betrayal would shock her to death. Even though I eventually killed them both, the memories of my past life still make waves of hatred surge endlessly within me. Can rebirth truly erase all hatred? At least I don't think so. Sushing and I were college classmates who stuck together through our startup journey, sharing many mutual friends. Our friends had no clue about our past grudges. They only witnessed Su losing his mind at his own wedding and dumping his long-term girlfriend. Overnight, everyone was showering me with sympathy while branding Su as the ultimate scumbag. After 2 days of fake grieving while organizing documents at home, I stormed into Su's studio with a posse of friends. The moment I stepped inside, the filth and chaos hit me like a punch to the gut. Trash littered the floor, takeout containers cluttered the tables, and the air hung heavy with an indescribable stench. Scanning the room, I turned to the nearest person. "Where's Sushing?" Chin gave an awkward chuckle. "Here to see Xingji, sis-in-law, sister-in-law." "Don't flatter yourself," I scoffed coldly. "Let me ask again, where's Sushing? We've got unfinished business. Tell him to come out." Chin shrank back, casting pleading glances at those around him. The studio was cramped, 6 people besides Sushing, all attendees of that farcical wedding. They exchanged uneasy looks until a man in plaid with dark circles under his eyes spoke up. "Xing's out. Not here right now." Josie. I dug out this name from the depths of my memory. In my past life, he left the company during the 5th year of my marriage to Sushing, citing ideological differences. By then I'd rarely visited the office, but since we'd weathered hardships together as friends, I still called to invite him for a farewell meal when I heard he was leaving. He didn't agree, just said over the phone, Lin, you're a good person, let me give you some advice. Sushing is absolute trash, watch yourself around him. At the time I thought he said those things because he'd had a falling out with Sushing. Only later did I realize he'd probably seen right through that guy's character all along. Taking a deep breath, I softened my tone. I need to speak with Sushing about something urgent. Could you help get him back here? Chin jumped in immediately. Got it. Hang on sis, I'll call brother Shing right now. I frowned but didn't correct how he addressed me again. The phone rang a few times before Sushing's voice came through. Hello, Chen, what's up, brother Shing? Your wife's looking for you. The call was abruptly hung up on the other end, leaving Chen mid-sentence with an awkward expression. He forced a stiff smile. Well, Shing probably got held up with something. I cut him off. Save it, since he's not here today. Pass this message. I want every cent of my investment and back pay wired to me immediately. He's got 48 hours, or I'll see him in court. Back when the studio was struggling, I poured in all my savings and even borrowed from my aunt. Never asked for a dime while handling Sushing's dirty work. He once held me and said, with a wife like you, what more could a man ask for? Now, looking back, I just feel incredibly stupid. Chin froze for a moment, a little flustered. No, don't do that, sister-in-law. The studio is doing perfectly fine. Why suddenly take the money out? As their own interests were involved, the others also started to persuade her. Sister-in-law, please don't be angry. Wait until brother Shing comes back, and you two can talk it over slowly. Don't make any rash decisions. Exactly. Don't let such a minor issue ruin your years of relationship. Come on sis. Don't take your fight with Shing out on the studio. Their so-called advice was just passive-aggressive criticism disguised as concern. I know the studio is everyone's baby, and cashing out now would screw them over, but why should I care? Though they call me sister-in-law, they're ultimately Sushing's friends through and through. In our past life when Sushing and Lin Yu were involved, all these core team members, his so-called friends, knew about their affair yet stayed silent, never breathing a word to me. So why should I spare them a single thought? Save your excuses. Just deliver my message to Sushing. After all, he'll have far bigger problems to worry about soon. Xin Yulin, what the hell are you trying to pull? Sushing's furious roar came through the receiver. You know damn well we just invested heavily in new equipment and haven't recouped the new project funds yet. What's this nonsense about demanding money now? And, I said flatly, what does your little studio have to do with me? There was a pause on the other end before the voice softened. Xin Yulin, I know you're upset about me calling off the engagement, but you can't just mess with the studio like this. The guys have been working their asses off with me. And I promised them bonuses by month's end. I cut him off impatiently. Sushing, just give me a straight answer. Are you paying me back or not? If not, I'm taking you to court. Don't say I didn't warn you when that subpoena arrives. After a long silence, his voice dropped lower. Are you really this heartless? Have you forgotten everything between us? Forgotten our friends at the studio? Everything between us? Sushing probably still sees me as that soft-hearted, naive Xin Yulin from before. He thinks I'm angry about being jilted at the altar and is trying to guilt-trip me. What bond could we possibly share? The kind where I suffered through hardships with you only to be publicly humiliated at our wedding. Sushing seemed to recall his actions right after rebirth and found himself at a loss for words. If he starts babbling about being hit by a car in his past life, people would think he's lost his mind. Can't even fabricate a plausible excuse when shifting blame. He sighed wearily. Can you give me some more time? Trust me, the studio will turn a profit soon. I'll pay you back double. No, I said flatly. After all, I was just trying to mess with him, not make money off him, realizing he wasn't getting anywhere with me. Sushing muttered, you're ruthless before hanging up. Even if I forcefully reclaim that money, it won't immediately bankrupt his studio, but it could definitely cause some cash flow problems for them temporarily. During this period, I'll find ways to sabotage any potential deals coming his way. After some thought, I called my aunt again. Auntie, could you talk to Uncle Zhou about Sushing's studio rent? Tell him not to give them discounted rates anymore. Do you even need to remind me? Don't worry, I already took care of it. Had I known earlier, I wouldn't have helped them in the first place. What a waste of favors. When Sushing first started the studio, he was strapped for cash and couldn't afford decent workspace. After scouting countless locations without success, a snarky agent even told him, don't rent if you can't pay. I secretly asked my aunt for help, and through her sales network, Uncle Zhou leased us our current spot below market rate, to protect Sushing's pride. I never mentioned my involvement, instead crediting the landlord's admiration for him. Looking back now, what kind of lovesick fool was I, shaking my head to get the water out. I cooed, "Auntie, you're amazing. By the way, let's go get a checkup at the hospital together." "The hospital? Lin, are you feeling unwell?" No, I just realized it's been ages since our last physical. Auntie, please come with me." "Oh, you alright. You handle the appointment and just call me when it's time." Hanging up the phone, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, this time around. I'll make sure to keep reminding Auntie to take care of her health. I won't let history repeat itself. In this life, we'll all be just fine. Later, Sushing came begging for leniency again, even sending our mutual friends to plead his case. I remained unfazed and gave him an ultimatum. He suggested we meet at his studio sometime to have a proper talk. My gut told me something was off, so I had someone tail him for a few days, and uncovered quite the scandal. Sushing's been frequenting a high school lately, getting awfully cozy with one of the female students. The moment I saw the photo, I immediately recognized the high school girl as Linyu. For a split second, I couldn't decide whether to praise Sushing for his devotion or scold him for being blinded by lust. Linyu was 8 years his junior, still underage at that point. I hired someone to gather evidence of their intimate relationship and brought a few burly bodyguards along to meet Sushing. When I first arrived at the studio, it was eerily quiet with all lights off, pitch black inside. "No way, Sushing, where are you?" I cautiously stopped at the entrance and asked my bodyguard to go in instead. The bodyguard nodded and carefully stepped inside. Within seconds, crashing furniture and agonized screams erupted from inside. "Ah, who the hell are you? Hurry, someone help." With a sharp click, the lights flickered on to reveal the chaotic scene. Sushing was pinned face down on the floor by a burly bodyguard who had his arms twisted behind his back. The rest of the studio staff crowded around, making half-hearted attempts to separate the two. Chen Chen's eyes lit up when he saw me. "Sis-in-law." He took 2 steps toward me before freezing at the sight of the hulking bodyguards flanking me. Sis-in-law," he stammered, "did you bring these guys?" Ignoring him, I crossed my arms and glared at the restrained Sushing. "Why did you call me here?" Sushing struggled in vain before resorting to pleading. Lin, what's the meaning of this? Shouldn't that be my question? If I'd walked in there instead, I'd be the one pinned to the ground right now, wouldn't I?" "Sis, you've got it all wrong," Chen blurted out, gesturing to the decorated room and birthday cake. "Brother Xing planned this surprise for you. It's a peace offering for your birthday." I signaled the bodyguard, prompting Sushing to scramble up while straightening his clothes. With a wry smile, he said, "Sorry for the misunderstanding. Lin, I just remembered it's your birthday today and wanted to celebrate with you." A faint melancholy lingered between his brows, his smile tinged with sorrow, the very picture of a wronged soul. "Can't deny it. His acting is genuinely impressive." Clap, clap, clap. I applauded with genuine admiration. "Sushing, I never realized what a phenomenal actor you are. What a waste of talent not pursuing the stage." He remained silent while his brothers started speaking up for him. "Sis, isn't this unfair of you? Do you have any idea how much effort Xing put into planning this birthday party? What couple doesn't argue? After all these years together, can't you find it in your heart to forgive him just this once?" "Xing was wrong, sure, but are you completely blameless? He's been killing himself to build a better future for you both. Can't you cut him some slack for one emotional outburst?" "Enough," Sushing shouted, his eyes filled with sorrow as he looked at me. "Stop talking. It's my fault. I wronged Lin." His buddies were about to speak up, but I raised my hand to signal my bodyguards. Several imposing men in black suits stepped forward, their sheer presence instantly silencing the noisy crowd. I walked to the table, tore off the decorations pasted on it, and let out a cold laugh. "You damn well owe me an apology. Was your so-called thoughtful preparation just some tacky dollar store decorations and a last-minute cake, or was it that nauseating act you put on to brush me off?" Before Sushing could respond, I continued, "Do you actually think you're some kind of martyr? Oh wow, sacrificing your dignity to suck up to your ex you despise, all for the sake of your precious studio. How noble of you." "Pathetic." Sushing's muscles tensed, his eyes blazing with fury. "Xing Yulin, I can hear you. Stop yelling." I shot him a glance, dragging a chair to sit down. "Cut the crap, Sushing. Here's the deal. Pay up, or we'll settle this in court. And who knows what that might do to your precious studio's reputation." Several people in the studio were glaring at me with pure hostility. I pointed at one of them and snapped, "Hey, got a problem with me?" Caught off guard by being singled out, they nervously averted their gaze. "What gives you the right to resent me? Was I wrong to reclaim what's mine, or was lending you money to survive the toughest times a mistake? Ungrateful bastards." Someone finally exploded. "Who the hell are you calling ungrateful? Isn't that the truth? search your conscience. Have I ever mistreated you these past 3 years? Who's been providing your food, clothing, shelter, and transportation? I've been more responsible than your own mother's, and what have you done in return? That scumbag among you humiliated me by breaking off our engagement, and now it's somehow my fault. Your talent for twisting the truth clearly runs in the pack. No wonder you're friends. As I spoke, my emotions got the better of me, though I'd known from past experience these people were no good. Facing them again still made me resent my former self for wasting time on them. Perhaps still possessing some shred of decency, the group guiltily lowered their heads, seeing no one else stepping up. Sushing spoke again. Lin, I know you're upset, but don't take it out on innocent people, okay? I laughed bitterly. Sushing, you've really mastered the art of passing the buck. I'm done talking. One last question. Are you paying me back or not? If not, I'm leaving right now and letting the courts handle this. Lin, how could you? 1. Stop being so unreasonable. 2, 3, fine, if you don't want to talk, we're leaving. I motioned for the bodyguards to leave, but Sushing stopped me at the door. I'll pay you back. I extended my hand. Should have said that sooner. Hand over the cash. Not today. Under my glare, he added, tomorrow. I need to move some funds around. You'll have it by tomorrow night at the latest, and make sure you calculate every penny of my back pay from these years. He gritted his teeth. Don't worry. You'll get what's coming to you. After making Sushing repeat his promise to repay the money while I recorded it, I prepared to leave with my bodyguards. He looked at me, seemingly with emotion. You weren't like this before. Humph. I gave a short laugh. Sushing, stop the act. You wouldn't want to make your little girlfriend angry, would you? The moment these words left his mouth, everyone around stared at him in shock. Sushing hastily denied it. What are you talking about? Since when do I have a little girlfriend? Seems he knew his behavior was shady. He'd kept Linyu completely off everyone's radar. But I wasn't about to cover for him. Not your girlfriend. Then why were you all over each other? Not your girlfriend. Then why head to a hotel? Unless she's... No, that's not true. I didn't. Though unwilling to admit it, Sushing's reaction said it all. The studio members who'd been trying to persuade me all fell silent. I took one last look at the studio decorated with balloons and decals, then walked away without turning back. Sushing, if you're going to lie next time, at least put some effort into it. Today isn't even my birthday. My daughter Shinshin's birthday is just 3 days apart from mine, but after marriage, I couldn't be bothered with the hassle and only celebrated hers. At first, Sushing still remembered to give me gifts on my birthday. Later, it became buying a cake for both of us on Shinshin's birthday. Eventually, he was too busy cozying up with Linyu to even remember Shinshin's special day. As for my own birthday, Sushing might have remembered 7 years ago, but the present-day version had long forgotten. Sushing repaid the money punctually in full, even sending a message saying let's part on good terms. Whether he feared I'd make more trouble or expose his affair with Linyu remains unclear. The moment I got the money, Phase 2 of my plan commenced. It's still early days, though the studio has gained some recognition. It won't truly take off until a year later when policy shifts and opportunities align. During this period, I handled virtually all the grunt work at the studio, including client communications. In other words, I held contact details for most of our clients, with memories from my past life. I even knew who our potential clients were. Leak this as insider info to the right people. You'll earn favors while diverting business that rightfully belongs to Sushing's studio. The promised bonuses for the studio team are now off the table due to debt repayment. Without new projects, even their base salaries are at risk. Sure, they're Sushing's friends, but business is business. How long will they stick with him when the money dries up? Even if they're willing, would their families let them go down with a sinking ship? After playing nanny to that bunch for 3 years, I couldn't control them directly, but dropping ambiguous hints to stir up their families was well within my power. Take Sushing, after years of being boss Su, could he still humble himself for negotiations, and working alongside people destined to betray him? Do you think he'd keep his cool? Then there's Linyu, the walking disaster of his own making. A grown man dating an underage girl. He'll face public condemnation without me lifting a finger. When I leaked this news to Linyu's family, they did make a scene at Sushing's studio once, but Su eventually pacified them. They even started approving of their relationship, practically treating him like a son-in-law. I don't feel the slightest regret. What decent family would let their underage daughter associate with shady adults just for money? The moment Sushing shows the slightest sign of bankruptcy, they'll turn into hyenas to squeeze every last drop of value from him, with endless patience. I kept digging the pit inch by inch, quietly awaiting the day the empire would crumble. 4 months into my rebirth, 2 employees left Sushing's studio due to unpaid wages. He pleaded desperately, but the man replied, "Brother Shing, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I've got my family to think about. If I stay here and we still can't turn a profit, how will I cover the mortgage and car payments? My wife's 7 months pregnant. Raising a child means major expenses. I can't exactly feed my family on thin air, can I?" As for how I knew all this, that brings us to the other person who left, Josie. "What did you want to see me about?" Josie was still wearing that plaid shirt, his dark circles so pronounced they looked like smudged eyeliner. Clutching his coffee cup nervously, he said, Lin, I owe you an apology for what happened at the studio that day. I'm truly sorry. I had no idea Sushing had been cheating on you all along. I really thought he wanted to reconcile with you. Enough with the small talk. I waved my hand dismissively. We've spent enough time on pleasantries. Let's get straight to the point. He lowered his head to take a sip of coffee, stole a glance at me, then murmured with downcast eyes, Lin, could you lend me some money? Borrow money? I froze. Why would you come to me? Josie's head sank even lower, his knuckles turning white from gripping too tightly. The studio hasn't been doing well lately. We're all struggling. My dad fell and needs surgery. I've scraped together what I can but still come up short. Just 30,000. Lin, you know my skills. I'll land another job soon and pay you back the moment I get my paycheck. I took a moment to collect myself before recalling a similar situation from my past life. Back then, I hadn't suddenly withdrawn funds or schemed behind his back. Josie received his bonus and salary, so the pressure wasn't nearly as intense as it is now. At this point in time, small loan platforms hadn't taken off yet. He probably had no choice but to swallow his pride and come to me. What about Sushing? Even after paying me back, he couldn't possibly be that broke. Surely he has 30,000 yuan, after all. The person who was keeping watch told me he had just delivered a lot of nice things to Lin Yu's family the other day. Josie remained silent, but a hint of resentment flickered in his eyes. 5. Sushing was a petty guy. It was a testament to his restraint that he didn't kick Josie out of the team immediately after being reborn. Lending him money was completely out of the question. But the others had no memories of their past lives. All they could see was Sushing's cold-heartedness, his unwillingness to help a good friend of many years. TSK. What a perfect opportunity to take him down. After pretending to ponder, I replied, sure. His eyes lit up. But before he could thank me, I continued, I can even hook you up with a decent job. The boss is great, might even offer an advance if you pass the interview. That company happened to be Sushing's biggest rival in my past life. We'd connected before when I sabotaged Su's deals. Regardless of their character flaws, the studio team members are certainly competent enough. They'd be valuable additions if referred elsewhere. I gave Josie a meaningful look. You should all consider giving it a shot. Understanding my implication, Josie responded earnestly, thank you, Lin, I'll discuss with the others about joining me. Josie moved with remarkable efficiency. Within a week, he'd already reported back with results. The impressive results convinced 2 more colleagues to join him in switching companies. Sushing must still be wondering why his second chance at life left him worse off than before, though privy to insider knowledge. His current status as a small studio owner denied him access to former business connections, yet if he focuses on steady progress, reclaiming his former standing isn't beyond reach. My goal was to keep him from focusing on his work. Sushing's studio was on the verge of collapse due to staff turnover and declining business. At this point, he didn't even have time for Lin Yu, let alone her family. I hired some neighborhood aunties to linger around the parks near Lin Yu's place, casually dropping mentions of the kids' work situations, with Sushing's studio being a frequent topic. After days of fishing for information, they finally hooked Lin Yu's parents, luring them to ask questions first, then serving up exaggerated insider details. The grand finale, Sushing's studio was doomed, and he was nearly bankrupt. In reality, things weren't nearly that dire, but Lin Yu's parents had no clue. Too hesitant to confront Sushing directly, they resorted to digging sideways. What they uncovered was, the studio is drowning in debt, with creditors repeatedly showing up mob-handed at their doorstep. Proof: I had to bring bodyguards to block their entry. The studio's expenses outweigh its income, leading to multiple staff defections. Proof: key employees like Josie have left. The studio is mired in crises, leaving Sushing completely overwhelmed. Proof: his recent coldness toward Lin Yu and her family, with mounting evidence and malicious misinformation. Lin Yu's parents began urging her to break up with Sushing. Of course, they'd want to squeeze out one last payout before parting ways. They might not have figured out how to make that final grab, but no worries, I'll help them with that. I compiled evidence of Sushing and Lin Yu's relationship and posted it online, hiring trolls to amplify the buzz. Soon enough, the story of a shady older man grooming an innocent high school girl went viral. To spice things up, I threw in my own history with Sushing, painting him as the ultimate scumbag who abandoned his long-suffering girlfriend while preying on a minor. I had planned to reveal Sushing and Lin Yu's identities after the story gained more traction, but netizens' insatiable appetite for gossip led them to dig up every sordid detail on their own. Accounts claiming to be insiders posted numerous photos of the couple, likely taken by Lin Yu's classmates who spotted them near campus. The classic love triangle, a cheating husband, the wronged wife, and an underage mistress. This tabloid-worthy drama naturally drew massive attention, even prompting interview requests from journalists. I turned down the media, but Lin Yu's parents didn't. Lin Yu's minor status gave them the perfect excuse. They adamantly claimed their daughter was naive and pure, completely deceived by that malicious scumbag. They vowed to sue him in court to seek justice for their daughter. The scandal blew up, and Sushing became infamous in the worst possible way. Fueled by public outrage, everyone backed Lin Yu's parents to sue Sushing. Cornered, or perhaps aiming to extort more money, they actually took Lin Yu to file a police report. Dragged into litigation, Sushing's studio collapsed completely, and the remaining staff scattered to find new jobs. I've been closely following his lawsuit with Lin Yu's family, occasionally coaching her parents behind the scenes to squeeze more money out of Sushing. After 3 months of legal wrangling, Lin Yu's parents eventually dropped the lawsuit and settled out of court. From then on, Sushing and Lin Yu had a complete falling out. Former lovers turned bitter enemies, losing both his money and his woman. Now that's poetic justice. I never expected Sushing to come looking for me. Hearing his voice again felt like revisiting another lifetime. Lin. I know you hate me, but could you open the door? Just let me say a few words. Open the door. Not a chance. I rolled my eyes and snapped. Didn't you say we should part ways amicably? Get lost and stop bothering me. Lin, just hear me out. Only a few words. I stayed silent, which he took as consent, and he started rambling through the door. Lin, this might sound unbelievable, but hear me out first. I know it's hard to swallow. The reason I acted that way at the wedding was because of a dream. In it, we were happily married with an adorable daughter, until something terrible happened. We lost our little girl, then my aunt, and you, consumed by grief and guilt. You drove us both to our deaths. The dream felt so real, it terrified me into behaving like that. He went on at length, even citing upcoming events as proof. Had I not been reborn, I might have actually believed his nonsense after seeing those predictions come true. Something terrible happened. Me, consumed by grief. What kind of bullshit is that? After my rebirth, I deliberately avoided thinking about our daughter, yet Sushing chose this moment to bring her up, trying to gloss over her death. My chest heaved as I struggled to suppress the urge to fling the door open and slap him across the face. Sushing, stop spinning tales. If we were truly happy together, what about Lin Yu? Wasn't she your true love in that dream of yours? That's why you dumped me for her immediately, and now that she's left you, suddenly the dream's fake. Sushing pounded on the door, pleading desperately. Lin, I was just scared. I dreamed you tried to run me over. And Lin Yu saved me. Of course I felt grateful toward her. But it was only gratitude. That's why I helped her family. How was I supposed to know they'd conspire against me? Lin, please believe me. After all these years supporting each other, just give me one chance. Bullshit. Even now, that bastard still won't spit out a single word of truth. Realizing his soulmate from a past life was trash, he comes crawling back to me, his dutiful wife, expecting me to bail him out like some gullible fool. I scoffed. Sushing, you want me to trust you. But do you trust me? You treated me like that just because of a dream. What right do you have to ask for my trust? The voices outside the door grew quieter. I suspect he was silently admitting those things might actually be true, but true or not, those things can only remain dreams in this lifetime. Sushing, if we really had a daughter, I think she'd regret being born into this world. Having a father like you. Lin, that's not how it is. Please listen to me. Stop. What are you doing? Stay still and don't move. Hearing the commotion at the door, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and opened it. Sushing was pinned to the ground by 2 officers, staring at me in shock. You actually called the cops, shouldn't I? I looked down at him condescendingly. That whole scandal blew up so publicly. Did you really think I'd miss it online? No, it's not me. That bitch set me up. Lin, please let me explain. Just hear me out. Sushing was taken away by the police. To avoid his pestering, I took a trip with my aunt. The next time I heard about him was in the crime news. That scruffy bearded Sushing with venomous eyes stood accused of murdering the Lin family. Old scandals resurfaced, but public opinion shifted from condemning his statutory rape to voices defending him. If he went as far as murder, he must have suffered terribly. I always suspected the Lin family set him up with that honey trap. Poor guy never stood a chance. After skimming through casually, I closed the web page. I never expected Sushing to murder Lin Yu's entire family, but in a way, he did me a favor by settling the score. Now that everyone who wronged me has faced retribution, it's time for me to start a new chapter. Everything will be alright. Story 2. In this life, I deliberately avoided all encounters with Lu Qingchuan. He went to comfort his deceased friend's widow and daughter. Then I'll take care of his widowed comrade in arms. I walked the same path he did, yet he was the one who wept. Jiang Wei, did you know you're married? I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Oh, so you knew about it too. In his past life, Lu Qingchuan took care of his fallen comrade's wife and daughter. When Chen Mengyao fell ill, he brought her water and medicine. When Chen Mengyao cried, he comforted her tenderly. When Chen Mengyao mentioned the struggles of single parenting, he became her free chauffeur and nanny. Yet as his wife, I can barely get a moment of his time. I couldn't take it anymore and asked for a divorce, but Lu Qingchuan accused me of being intolerant toward his daughter and ex-wife, petty and unreasonable, so I marked an X on the calendar, silently starting my own divorce countdown. 1. It was also Lu Qingchuan's last chance to turn things around, but he blew it. On the final day of the countdown, he promised to share one last meal with me, only to abandon me at the restaurant to attend Chen Mingyao's daughter's birthday. I waited till nightfall without seeing him, then got targeted by thugs on my way home and met a brutal end. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at that fateful dinner table on the last day. Lin Feifei, Chen Mingyao's daughter, was tugging at Lu Qingchuan's sleeve with a pout, acting coquettishly. Uncle Lu, didn't you promise to celebrate my birthday with me? Today is my birthday. Her large, fluttering eyes welled up with tears. On the verge of crying, Lu Qingchuan's face softened with adoration as he swiftly gathered Lin Feifei into his arms, then turned to me with guilt-tinged eyes. Jiang Wei, could we have dinner when I get back? Feifei's birthday only comes once a year. I can't miss it. The familiarity of this scene struck me like lightning. I was certain I'd been reborn. I steadied my emotions and offered a gracious, gentle smile. Feifei's birthday takes priority. Go ahead. Don't worry about me. Lu Qingchuan shot me a grateful glance, then scooped up Lin Feifei and said to Chen Mengyao beside him, Mengyao, let's go. The three of them standing together looked every bit the picture of a warm, happy family. While I was the odd one out, Chen Mengyao nodded, then turned to me with an affected look of remorse in her eyes. Vivi, I'm really sorry for crashing your dinner party. I don't even know how to make it up to you. Feifei just wouldn't stop insisting on coming. I saw right through her little act, then suddenly remembered walking home alone later might be risky. Besides, with this whole feast already served, they couldn't possibly expect me to foot the bill. I smiled magnanimously. No problem, pay the bill for me, then drive me home. I turned my gaze to Lu Qingchuan beside me. No need to come back, Lu Qingchuan, stay there and keep them company. I said it with magnanimous ease, completely ignoring Lu Qingchuan's stunned expression. Chen Mengyao forced a smile, her lips curling with visible discomfort. Okay. I packed up all the dishes from the table and got into Lu Qingchuan's car. In the back seat, of course, Chen Mengyao, holding Lin Feifei, instinctively took the front passenger seat. The atmosphere in the car was tense and awkward, but I couldn't have cared less. Stepping out of the car with groceries in hand, I walked away without a backward glance, leaving Lu Qingchuan behind me. Back home, my eyes fell on the red X marked on the calendar, that ridiculous divorce countdown from my past life. Without hesitation, I tore that page right off. True letting go isn't about self-indulgent divorce countdowns, but returning every ounce of pain they've caused you. It was past midnight when Lu Qingchuan returned. The sound of the door woke me. He came to my bedside, his voice laced with guilt. Wei, let's have dinner another day. I'll keep my promise to you. I lay with my back to him, deliberately avoiding eye contact. A bitter smile crossed my mind. He'd said those exact words when he promised me in our past life. My voice was flat. It's fine. The meal doesn't matter either way. Hearing my words, Lu Qingchuan froze momentarily before cautiously venturing to speak. Wei, are you upset with me? I closed my eyes, my voice devoid of emotion. Lu Qingchuan stood by the bed in prolonged silence, as if trying to decipher my thoughts. After a long silence, he finally lay down on the bed without a word. The next morning, Lu Qingchuan surprisingly woke up earlier than me. Wearing an apron, he brought breakfast from the kitchen, his lips curling into a gentle smile the moment he saw me. Good morning, sleepyhead. Why not sleep a bit longer? I've already made breakfast for you. He untied his apron and told me cheerfully, I took the day off today, let's make up for that meal we missed yesterday. As I looked at the carefully prepared breakfast, my heart sank again. Sandwiches and fried eggs again, those are all Chen Mingyao's favorites, but what I really love are Chinese steamed buns and congee. I know because last time Lu Qingchuan personally made her those sandwiches and fried eggs. I swallowed the last flicker of emotion in my heart. Refusing to even glance at Lu Qingchuan, Chen Mingyao must be starving, go take this to her. Since it's your day off, you should go keep her company. Without waiting for Lu Qingchuan to recover from his dejection, I walked out the door first. Lu Qingchuan, I don't need your patronizing concern anymore. After composing myself, I threw myself into work the moment I arrived at the office. It's my shift at the clinic today. Patients kept streaming in and out, keeping me impossibly busy. It wasn't until dusk, as my shift was winding down, that Hu Yanting finally strode in with measured steps. Dr. Jiang, prescription. He was always a man of few words. I lifted my eyelids to glance at him, his erect posture and military uniform radiating heroic charisma. His bronze skin glowed with masculine vigor under the setting sun. Leg acting up again, I asked him out of habit. In his previous life, Hu Yanting often came to me for prescriptions. I was his primary physician. He responded with a grunt, avoiding eye contact. Nodding, I swiftly wrote out his prescription. Truth be told, it's always the same few prescriptions for Hu Yanting's chronic leg injury. Hu Yanting took the prescription, stood up, and walked out in one fluid motion. It suddenly struck me that despite his frequent visits for medication, our entire interaction had never gone beyond those two brief exchanges. Never a word more than necessary, even I only knew him in broad strokes. Though we lived in the same military compound, aloof, enigmatic, ice-cold, that was the entire garrison's impression of him. Born into poverty, he became the youngest officer in the district through battlefield scars and sacrifice. Countless people sought his friendship, but he remained an impenetrable iceberg, always keeping others at arm's length. 2. The only time you'd catch him smiling was when he walked side by side with his wife. Everyone in the military district said they were a perfect match. Like two peas in a pod, tragically, his wife passed away last year after battling an illness. From then on, the already taciturn Hu Yanting became even more withdrawn. Over time, Hu Yanting became completely marginalized by the military community. Wherever he went, a dark cloud seemed to follow overhead, casting a gloomy pall that drove people further away. If that's the case, a smirk played on my lips. As his attending physician, is it too much for me to show extra concern about his condition? If Lu Qingchuan is willing to care for his deceased friend's widow and daughter, then I can certainly look after his widowed comrade-in-arms. As Lu Qingchuan would say, it's only right to lend them more help. Hu Yanting usually comes to refill his prescription once a week. When he returned the following week, I made up an excuse to keep him in my office. Battalion Commander Hua, I'm afraid we're currently out of stock for your medication. My little white lie worked. Hu Yanting fell for it immediately. What should we do then? His brows furrowed slightly, yet those dark, gleaming eyes remained utterly calm. I bit my lip, forcing myself to stay composed and not give anything away, because I always had this nagging feeling that Hu Yanting's eyes were piercingly sharp, like they could see right through me any second. Ahem, is the pain too much? Maybe we should wait a bit longer, to make it more convincing. I deliberately played hard to get. Not yet. Hu Yanting remained expressionless. Yes, it hurts terribly. I immediately put on a troubled look. Oh dear, this is quite a predicament. Perhaps once the medicine arrives, I'll personally deliver it to you. I was hoping to get Hu Yanting's home address through this, but before I could even say send it, Hu Yanting beat me to it. I'll give you my address. He immediately pulled out a pen and paper from his pocket. Quickly jotting down his home address, Dr. Jiang, I'll be waiting. With that, he stood up and left, his movements as brisk as ever. I sat there stunned for a long while, clutching his home address in my hand. Wait, it's going this smoothly, so smooth that I'm starting to feel like I'm the one being played, not him. Lu Qingchuan arrived right after Hu Yanting left. For the first time ever, he told me, Wei, I'm sorry, my breakfast probably doesn't suit your taste. I'll make it up to you properly. The car's downstairs. Let me take you to the state-run restaurant. We'll have that meal we missed. He spoke with genuine sincerity, his eyes slightly reddened. I took off my lab coat, gathered my things, and hardened my heart. Got some medical records to review tonight. Not going. I stepped past him and walked straight out. Lu Qingchuan stubbornly followed behind me all the way downstairs. The moment I stepped out, I spotted Lu Qingchuan's car. He was indeed waiting for me, but there was someone else in the car. Chen Mengyao was sitting in the passenger seat with Lin Feifei in her arms. Seeing me approach, Chen Mengyao theatrically pushed the car door open and stepped out. Vivi, sorry for being the third wheel again, but Qingchuan said it's fine to bring me along, the more the merrier. Chen Mengyao gave me a rather triumphant look. I pursed my lips and turned directly to Lu Qingchuan, bypassing Chen Mengyao. You go eat with them, have fun, I'll ride my bike back. I walked toward the bike shed, ready to ride my old-school bicycle home. 3. But Chen Mengyao suddenly grabbed my arm. Her eyes were red-rimmed, looking as pitiful as a little bunny. Wei, do you hate me? In that case, I won't go. Feifei and I can walk home. You and Qingchuan can enjoy your meal in peace. With that, she turned her head away and wiped her tears, putting on this whole act like I was driving her away. Her performance almost made me laugh, yet Lu Qingchuan kept falling for it just like in our past life. Mengyao, don't say that, nobody dislikes you. The heartache in his eyes was something I'd never seen before. The next instant, he turned and fixed me with a piercing glare. Jiang Wei, must you be so harsh? Is it really that hard to join us for a meal, just as I expected? He pinned all the blame on me. I was about to argue when another car pulled up beside us. The car window rolled down, revealing Hui Yanting's chiseled, handsome face. Dr. Jiang, I've run out of painkillers for my leg. Got any medicine for a broken heart? The air grew thick with tension. I shook off Lu Qingchuan's grip on my arm and strode straight toward Hui Yanting's car. I have patients waiting. I'll take my leave now. Opening the car door, I slid into the passenger seat. With a stomp on the accelerator, Hui Yanting effortlessly left Lu Qingchuan in the dust. In the rearview mirror, I could still see the fury burning in Lu Qingchuan's eyes. Qingchuan, what's wrong? Chen Mengyao, standing beside him, shook his arm as he kept staring at the vanishing taillights. Lu Qingchuan composed himself and shook his head. It's nothing. Come on, Mengyao, let's grab some food, before getting in the car. Lu Qingchuan glanced once more in the direction the vehicle had gone. Can't help but frown. Jiang Wei's a surgeon. Why would she prescribe heart medication? That exact question crossed my mind too. Only after getting in the car, I was so focused on getting away that I completely missed the odd tone in Hui Yanting's words. The air in the car was stifling, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Steeling myself, I spoke up first. Thanks for earlier, in return. I hadn't finished speaking when Hui Yanting cut me off. Then I'll trouble Dr. Jiang with this. Come deliver the medicine to my place. He turned to look at me with earnest, shining eyes. I nodded, masking my guilty expression. All right, that's fair. Then I quickly averted my gaze to the window. The scenery outside whizzed past as I glimpsed Hui Yanting's foot pressing the accelerator from the corner of my eye. Why does it seem like his leg injury isn't that serious? Hui Yanting drove me home. After thanking him, I went upstairs. Surprisingly, Lu Qingchuan was waiting at home instead of having dinner with Chen Mengyao. Lu Qingchuan's expression shifted when he saw me walk in. He walked to the window, watching Hui Yanting drive away, his eyes darkening. Since when did Hui Yanting develop this bleeding heart tendency? He frowned, his tone laced with displeasure. I remained silent. He pressed on. Aren't you a surgeon? Since when do you deal with cardiac issues? He was getting agitated. I deliberately ignored his question and gave him a cool glance. Weren't you supposed to be having dinner with Chen Mengyao? Back so soon? I thought he'd be taking care of Chen Mengyao until midnight like usual. Lu Qingchuan was momentarily speechless. He'd originally gone to dinner with Chen Mengyao and Lin Feifei, but his mind was elsewhere the entire meal. Hui Yanting's words kept echoing in his mind. Dr. Jiang, do you have any heartache medicine, for some reason? He suddenly felt unbearably anxious, even restless. After just a few bites, he excused himself with urgent business and hurried home. This was the first time he'd left Chen Mengyao and her daughter alone. He composed himself, casting an uneasy glance my way. Vivi, I think you should keep some distance from Hui Yanting. I cut him off before he could finish. He's my patient. 4. Besides, his wife passed away last year. Now he's all alone and in poor health. It's really quite pitiful. It's only right that I look after him more. Isn't that what you told me? I lifted my gaze, meeting Lu Qingchuan's eyes with calm composure. Back when Chen Mingyao's husband passed away, these were the exact words Lu Qingchuan said to me. Now I've merely followed the same path he took. Why is he getting worked up about it now? The next day was the weekend. I left early to deliver medicine to Hui Yanting. Lu Qingchuan also received a call from Chen Mengyao first thing in the morning. Lin Feifei was throwing a tantrum, insisting Uncle Lu take her to the park. I saw right through her little game. Last night Lu Qingchuan ditched her and came straight home to see me. Of course she couldn't swallow that, but to my surprise, Lu Qingchuan actually refused. Mengyao, I'm really sorry, can we do this another time? I've got something important today. I heard Lu Qingchuan say this while putting on my shoes by the door. As he spoke, he glanced in my direction. Over the landline, Chen Mingyao's voice was clearly choked with tears. Qingchuan, did what happened yesterday upset Wei Wei? It's alright, you go ahead and spend time with her. I'll make sure Feifei doesn't disturb you. But no sooner had she spoken than Lin Feifei's cries erupted from the phone. I want Uncle Lu to stay with me. Wah. Does Uncle Lu not want Feifei anymore? He promised Daddy he'd take care of us. The rest of our conversation was shut behind that door. As I closed the door, I caught one last glimpse of Lu Qingchuan's torn expression. When it comes down to it, he still can't let go of Chen Mingyao and her daughter. But none of that concerns me anymore. Carrying the medicine, I arrived at Hui Yanting's house following the address he gave me. To my surprise, it was a freestanding house. Such homes were rare in the entire military compound. I knocked on the door, and Hui Yanting answered almost immediately. The moment he saw it was me, his relaxed brow immediately furrowed with a pained expression. The medicine's here. I nodded. Right here. I took the medicine out of my bag and handed it to him. Without a word, he tore open the package, popped 2 pills straight into his mouth. Looks like the pain's pretty intense. I couldn't help but wince in sympathy. Hui Yanting's old injury must be serious, probably never healed properly and left him with chronic pain. He took his medicine and looked at me with gentle eyes. I stood outside the door while he remained frozen inside, neither of us making a move. Dr. Jiang, could you help me up? He suddenly reached out his arms, seeking my assistance. The door opened pretty quickly just now, but since he brought it up, I couldn't bring myself to outright refuse. I murmured in agreement and walked over, letting Hui Yanting rest his hand on my shoulder. The weight of his 6-foot-plus frame leaned against me with just the right pressure, but the close contact carried an undeniable hint of intimacy. A faint warmth rose to my cheeks. Hui Yanting suddenly said with a chuckle, Dr. Jiang, no need to be nervous. My breath hitched as heat instantly spread from my cheeks to the tips of my ears. I quickly helped him onto the couch before standing up. Don't forget to take your medicine on time. I brought the medicine, so I'll take my leave now. With that, I bolted out the door like a startled rabbit. 5. To my surprise, I ran straight into Lu Qingchuan, who'd just caught up. Seeing me emerge from Hui Yanting's place, Lu Qingchuan's face darkened. Lu Qingchuan, what are you doing here? I thought he'd be with Chen Mingyao. Lu Qingchuan rushed over and grabbed my hand. Come home with me. His tone was harsh, domineering, and brooked no refusal. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, I heard Hui Yanting's helpless wailing from behind the door. Dr. Jiang, it hurts so much. As a doctor, my instinct was screaming at me to turn back, but Lu Qingchuan wouldn't allow it. Go, leave him be. Lu Qingchuan's fury burned as his glare at the Hui family's gate turned murderous. Just as I hesitated, Hui Yanting's screams from behind the door grew even louder. Ugh, Dr. Jiang. The next moment, he actually crawled out through the doorway, beads of sweat dripping profusely from his forehead. With a sudden resolve, I wrenched my hand free from Lu Qingchuan's grip. I can't just stand by and do nothing. Leaving those words hanging, I rushed toward Hui Yanting. I steadied him with both hands. Are you okay? Let me examine you. I reached to roll up Hui Yanting's pant leg. Hui Yanting winced in pain, grabbing my hand with a pitiful, pleading look in his eyes. Dr. Jiang, it hurts so much. You're my only hope. Dr. Jiang, it's so cold and hard here. Could you help me to the couch? His pleading tone and glistening eyes made him look heartbreakingly vulnerable as he gazed at me. My heart melted. Even the toughest man has his vulnerable moments. I nodded and struggled to help him up, maintaining the same position as before, though this time Hui Yanting held on tighter, paying no mind. I gritted my teeth and managed to get Hui Yanting onto the couch. Then I quickly rolled up his pant legs. My breath caught at the sight of those vicious scars. For some reason, my eyes suddenly stung with unshed tears. So these were the legs of a war hero. After thoroughly examining Hui Yanting, I found nothing seriously wrong, yet Hui Yanting kept whining about the pain. Lu Qingchuan, who had witnessed everything from the doorway, looked absolutely livid. Hui Yanting, you're quite the actor. The sheer malice in his words stunned me. I turned back and shot him a reproachful look. Lu Qingchuan, he's a patient. Was that really necessary? Your words were downright cruel. Just as Lu Qingchuan was about to retort, Hui Yanting cut him off. Commander Lu, please don't be angry with Dr. Jiang. This is all my fault for taking up your time together as a couple, but I'm genuinely in unbearable pain. With pleading eyes, he said, considering I was wounded serving our country, could you let Dr. Jiang examine me? I examined him while silently pondering to myself, doesn't Hui Yanting usually speak very little? Why is he so talkative today? And why does he suddenly sound exactly like Chen Mingyao? But the thought only lingered in my mind for a fleeting moment before I refocused on examining Hui Yanting. Shortly after, I stood up. It must be a recurrence of your old injury. You must keep taking your medication without interruption. I carefully rolled down Hui Yanting's pant legs and gave him gentle instructions. Hui Yanting nodded obediently. Can we go home now? At the doorway, Lu Qingchuan urged impatiently in a cold tone, though reluctant. The medicine had been delivered and it was time for me to leave. The next instant, Hui Yanting suddenly grabbed my arm. Dr. Jiang, can you cook? I'm starving. Ever since I started living alone, I haven't had a proper meal. They say taking medicine on an empty stomach can damage your gut. He gave me that pleading look again. Gotta admit, Hui Yanting's really pitiful. Well, alright then. The moment I agreed, Lu Qingchuan spoke up again. Stop pretending. Isn't there a cafeteria? Why aren't you going? He glared at Hui Yanting with a look that could kill. Hui Yanting glanced at his own leg and said airily to Lu Qingchuan, can't you see I'm having trouble walking, on the way back? Lu Qingchuan's face was dark with anger. Halfway through the drive, he finally couldn't hold back anymore. That Hui Yanting is deliberately keeping you around, can't you see? His brows furrowed tightly. I turned my head and gave him a cold look. Can't you see Chen Mingyao was deliberately keeping you there? 6. Lu Qingchuan was instantly rendered speechless by my remark. The silence during the ride grew unbearably tense. The car pulled up outside our apartment building. 2 gaunt figures, one tall, one small, swayed in the chilly night breeze. It was Chen Mingyao and Lin Feifei. The moment Lu Qingchuan's car appeared, Chen Mingyao rushed forward with tear-reddened eyes. Qingchuan, you're finally back. Feifei is sick. She's running a high fever. Please take a look. I'm at my wit's end. Sobbing, she pressed Feifei's forehead against Lu Qingchuan. The moment Lu Qingchuan touched it, his expression turned grave. It's scalding hot. Get in the car now. I'm taking you to the hospital. He just left me behind and carried Lin Feifei straight into the car. Chen Mingyao quickly scrambled into the passenger seat. As she passed by me, she whispered just loud enough for me to hear, Lu Qingchuan is mine. Jiang Wei, don't even think about taking him from me. The corner of my mouth twitched as I couldn't help but laugh. Don't worry, this trash is all yours. You can keep it. With that, I went upstairs without looking back. I woke up in the middle of the night. But Lu Qingchuan still hadn't returned. The phone rang first. It was actually Hui Yanting calling. How did you get my home number? I was stunned by Hui Yanting's resourcefulness, but all he did was complain about his pain. Dr. Jiang, could you bring some painkillers over? I'm in terrible pain. I'll send a car to pick you up. I glanced at the pitch-black sky outside and was about to refuse when Hui Yanting abruptly hung up. Within minutes, Hui Yanting's car honked impatiently downstairs. After much deliberation, I dressed properly and went downstairs. The driver whisked me to Hui Yanting's residence at breakneck speed. The moment the door opened, Hui's towering frame blocked the entrance like an impenetrable wall. The next second, the wall was about to collapse. Instinctively, I reached out to steady him. Hui Yanting. Hui Yanting rested his head on my shoulder. His voice weak. Dr. Jiang, I feel like I'm dying. His forehead felt burning hot to the touch. The moment I touched it, my jaw nearly hit the floor in shock. He's burning up. Hui Yanting, what have you done? I demanded sharply. He wearily lifted his eyelids. I was in so much pain. I took a lot of painkillers. As he spoke, I caught sight of the empty blister pack on the coffee table from the corner of my eye. Did he really take the whole pack of painkillers? My brow furrowed as I signaled to the driver behind me. Give me a hand here. Help lay him down. We can't make it to the hospital in time. Induce vomiting now. The driver didn't dare delay either, rushing over to help me clumsily carry Hui Yanting onto the bed. I made him drink plenty of water before inducing vomiting. Hui Yanting turned pale from vomiting. Thankfully, he was out of danger. After some basic physical cooling measures, his fever gradually subsided. But all this commotion kept me busy until daybreak. When Lu Qingchuan returned home, he realized I wasn't there. By the time I got home the next evening, Lu Qingchuan had been waiting for me the entire day. 7. His sunken eyes and weathered face made him look years older. When he saw me, tears glistened in his eyes. Jiang Wei, tell me the truth. You don't love me anymore, do you? His voice trembled slightly. His whole being so fragile it seemed he might shatter at the slightest touch. I hesitated, wanting to speak the truth, yet fearing it might be too cruel. Yet my silence itself was an answer. Lu Qingchuan understood instantly. He closed his eyes briefly, tears suddenly streaming down. Jiang Wei, did you know you're married? Only then did I curl my lips into a mocking smile. Oh, so you knew all along. Did it ever cross his mind that he was married when he kept running to Chen Mingyao's place? Lu Qingchuan remained completely oblivious to his own hypocrisy, his eyes turned frosty. Jiang Wei, let's get divorced. The moment finally came when he said those words to me. I parted my lips to agree, only to see him stand up and mark an X on the calendar with his pen. Jiang Wei, I'm giving you one last chance. If you still haven't changed your mind by this date, I'll truly have to walk away. Now it's his turn to set up that ridiculous divorce countdown. I couldn't help but sigh inwardly. What about Chen Mingyao? I wondered how Lu Qingchuan would deal with her. Lu Qingchuan's expression turned icy, his eyes devoid of any warmth. I've already arranged for someone else to take care of them. Her affairs are no longer any concern of mine. Hearing his callous yet resolute words, I couldn't help but let out a mocking laugh. Why wasn't he this determined in our past life? The grass is always greener on the other side. Once within reach, even the most cherished becomes ordinary. Lu Qingchuan's divorce countdown stood at 5 days. Those 5 days, I was either at work or taking care of Hui Yanting. I never meant for it to come to this, but the moment I clocked out, Hui Yanting's chauffeur was already waiting at the hospital entrance. Then he leaned his head out from the rear window, his gaze fragile and pleading. Dr. Jiang, this dish is delicious. It tastes just like my sister's cooking. Could you make it for me again sometime? The slightest hesitation on my part would make Hui Yanting look like he was about to cry. I knew it was too much to ask. He looks like he's about to fall apart any second. Then he began murmuring to himself, Dr. Jiang, you probably don't know this. I grew up without parents. My elder sister begged for food to raise me. My heart ached unbearably before he could finish speaking. All right, I promise. Please stop talking. The next instant, he flashed an utterly innocent smile. Thank you, Dr. Jiang. You're such a kind person, and so. I endured 5 whole days of Hui Yanting clinging to me under this kind person label. By the time I finally managed to get away and return home, Lu Qingchuan had already left. A divorce agreement lay on the table alongside a handwritten note he'd left. Jiang Wei, I'd been deployed to the Gobi Desert on a classified mission. If you change your mind, come find me there. I'll always wait for you. He's waiting for me to regret this. I curled my lips in a bitter smile. That'll never happen. I picked up the pen and signed the divorce papers without hesitation. Lu Qingchuan, unlike you, I don't hesitate when making decisions. Hui Yanting somehow got wind of my divorce news. From that day onward, he became even more relentless. I gradually began noticing something odd about Hui Yanting's injuries. For instance, I'd often see him walking perfectly fine from upstairs, but the moment he spotted me, he'd suddenly start limping. Another time, he'd never mention hunger when I was around. But the second I got up to leave, he'd whine about being starving and put on this pitiful act to guilt me into cooking for him. Then there was the time his security detail mysteriously vanished into thin air whenever I showed up. Bottom line, he seemed hell-bent on painting himself as this helpless, abandoned soul in front of me, but I have no proof. To gather evidence of Hui Yanting faking his illness, I specifically invited him on a holiday outing. Hui Yanting agreed without hesitation. At first, Hui Yanting still limped his way into having the driver take us to the countryside. I had trouble walking throughout the entire trip. It wasn't until my accidental fall into the river that Hui Yanting finally revealed himself. I watched as he sprinted into the water and fished me out while I pretended to drown. Wei, are you okay? Don't worry, we'll reach the shore soon. He held me close, his olive drab shirt soaked through and clinging to his firm chest, nestled in his arms. I felt my cheeks grow warm. For some reason, I couldn't bring myself to meet his gaze. Hui Yanting, you lied to me. There's nothing wrong with your leg at all. He paused at the words, remaining silent for a few seconds before replying with amusement in his voice. So you were testing me. Nice acting. Hearing this, I grew irritated remembering all the performances he'd been putting on for me lately. I struggled free from his embrace. You're the one who's acting, Hui Yanting. Tell me the truth. What's your real motive for getting close to me? I glared up at him, my entire frame dwarfed by his towering silhouette. He lowered his gaze, those profound eyes locking onto mine. Wei, because I love you. I only realized later that in our past life, Hui Yanting had already been trying to get close to me. Every time he came for medicine, it was just an excuse to see me. No, his old injury never actually flared up again. When he took me to his home and opened the cabinet, my heart lurched as years' worth of accumulated medicine came tumbling out with a clatter. How is this medicine? These are the proofs of Hui Yanting's love for me all these years. If you came to see me, why wouldn't you say more than a few words? Hui Yanting curled his lips into a faint smile, his voice returning to its usual composed demeanor. Because by then, you'd already married Lu Qingchuan. It suddenly dawned on me that every interaction I'd had with Hui Yanting was part of his carefully woven web. He knew about Chen Mengyao. He knew I'd deliberately brought him the medicine. He was playing along with their scheme all along. I wiped the dampness from the corner of my eye and asked him with deliberate sarcasm. What about your late wife? Didn't you love her? After spending these days together, I simply can't believe Hui Yanting could be that heartless, falling for someone else barely a year after his wife's passing. Hui Yanting's eyes turned icy at those words. What wife are you talking about? She's the only family I have left, my elder sister. What? Are people in the military district spreading rumors that she's my wife? So this is what they mean by looking like a married couple. I pulled Hui Yanting into a tight embrace, tears welling up in my eyes. I suddenly saw a different kind of masculinity in this man. Lu Qingchuan was fickle and emotionally detached, but Hui Yanting remained steadfast through it all. In the days that followed, Hui Yanting recounted the scene of our first meeting. Back then, Hui Yanting was still living in the countryside with his sister, begging for food to survive. One year, I ran into Hui Yanting while visiting relatives in the countryside. He was crouched by the roadside, clutching a chipped bowl in his hands, stretching out his skinny arms pitifully at passers-by with pleading eyes. Though younger than him, I grew up in a military compound with every comfort imaginable. I desperately tugged at my father's sleeve, begging him to tell the driver to stop. When the car halted, I grabbed all my pocket money from Mom and rushed toward Hui Yanting. Here, little brother. This is for you. Back then I was incredibly generous, handing over every last penny of my pocket money without hesitation. It was 1973, I was just 8 years old, and I gave him a whole 3 yuan. In those days, Hui Yanting had never seen that kind of money before. Later, Hui Yanting told me with a smile, had it not been for those 3 yuan, my sister and I would have starved to death that winter. As I grew older, I carved out a future through military service and finally gave my sister the comfortable life she deserved. Became the youngest officer in the military district. If only, my sister. His eyes glistened as he spoke. Then he pulled me into a tight embrace. Bibi, you know what? All these years, I've been searching for you. That's when I remembered the look in Hui Yanting's eyes when he first appeared in my office years ago. I froze for a moment. Shock, delight, and overwhelming longing. But by then, I'd completely forgotten about him. With that thought, I reached out and gently hooked my arm around Hui Yanting's neck. Hui Yanting, I'll never forget you again. After Lu Qingchuan left for the Gobi Desert, he never received any word of my regret. Agreed, he finally couldn't hold back anymore. He rushed back the moment the mission ended. Sadly, what he received was news of my marriage to Hui Yanting. On the wedding day, Lu Qingchuan stood at the restaurant entrance with weary eyes. It wasn't until Hui Yanting and I came out to see off the guests that I finally spotted him. I pretended not to notice his desperate longing gaze. Arm in arm with Hui Yanting, we simply accepted the guests' parting blessings one by one. The past is something I no longer wish to dwell upon. I later heard from friends that Lu Qingchuan still couldn't shake off Chen Mengyao's persistent advances. Chen Mengyao threatened to take the matter to their superiors if Lu Qingchuan refused to marry her. After all, everyone had witnessed the nature of their relationship over the years. Unable to withstand the pressure, Lu Qingchuan eventually gave in. After marrying Chen Mengyao, I'd occasionally run into him in the military compound. The youthful vigor in his eyes was gone, replaced by regret and exhaustion. Several times he tried to speak to me, but I always walked away first. We're better off as strangers. Hui Yanting is the only one in my heart, my sight, and my thoughts. And Hui Yanting is just like me. The end. Story 2. Even after 2 rebirths, Cui Hezhou couldn't escape his fate of marrying me. By the 3rd life, he finally surrendered to destiny. He stopped abandoning me in the wilderness to save his sister first, nor did he despise the birthmark by my eye anymore, calling it heaven's mark to recognize me. His will remained unshaken as ever. Crawling from the slums, he collapsed before me covered in frost, waiting like in our past lives for me to lift him up and bring him home. This time, heaven took pity. It was his sister who lifted him up. I picked up another, even more pitiful little beggar and said with a laugh that I'd raise this one instead. Cui Hezhou stared blankly as I walked past his outstretched hand, overwhelmed with joy, so much so that he seemed on the verge of tears. A gloomy, snow-laden day, the leaden clouds hanging heavy. The scout returned with news that the Yellow River had frozen over, making passage impossible. My sister sighed, gently stroking my drowsy face in the carriage before lifting the curtain to instruct the servants. Find us an inn nearby for now. Jenner is exhausted too. I clambered from her lap and pressed my face against the carriage window. The snow fell heavily, as if even the clouds had frozen solid. Beggars huddled shivering in ramshackle shelters. While kind-hearted merchants brought them leftover scraps from diners, the beggars swarmed like ants and snatched everything in an instant. Only 2 of them didn't join the scramble. One seemed too proud to bother, while the other, perhaps too emaciated, lacked even the strength to rise. His matted hair framing a figure curled in the corner, my elder sister leaned in, pressing a hand to my forehead as she pulled me back, instructing the wet nurse to fetch a rabbit fur headband for me. This wind carries an ill omen. Catching a chill would be no laughing matter. They didn't let me out until I was bundled up like a rice dumpling. No sooner had my feet touched the ground than a man collapsed before me, clutching my cloak with such force I nearly toppled onto him. Good heavens, my sister caught me in her arms, frowning at the unconscious figure on the ground. The nursemaid took one glance and gasped, "Poor lad, his body's covered in abuse marks." My devout Buddhist sister couldn't bear suffering, seeing so many refugees here. She paid to set up a soup kitchen, then helped up the grimy boy still clutching my robe desperately. I kept my hands to myself, watching silently. Suddenly I asked, "Sister, are you really keeping this filthy beggar?" The boy's tightly shut eyelids fluttered faintly. My sister pinched my cheek with a resigned smile. "Jenner, mind your manners. Treat everyone with respect. No matter their station." "Understood." After a moment's thought, she said, "Uncle's military camp happens to be recruiting young refugees for training. Since fate brought us together, why not take this one home? It'd be a good deed." Playing the age card, I ignored my sister's nagging, wriggled free from her grasp, and dashed toward the huddle of beggars in the tattered shack. Pointing at the scrawny little urchin, I grinned mischievously, eyes crinkling with amusement. "If sister gets to keep one, then I want one too. And I'm taking this particular one." No one else noticed, but I saw it. The boy feigning unconsciousness beside my sister suddenly snapped his eyes open at my words, staring at me in utter disbelief. Too, studying his expression covertly, I realized he was none other than Chui Hezhou, the figure who'd been haunting my dreams these past months. Those fragmented dreams seemed to recount a story from some book. In my dream, I was the insufferable younger sister, not only disfigured by a birthmark near my eye, but also spoiled and willful, snatching everything I fancied, including my elder sister's beloved, Chui Hezhou. Despite 2 lifetimes of rebirth, Chui Hezhou, the boy I'd clung to since childhood, never escaped his fate of marrying me. Across both lifetimes, no matter how cruelly he treated me, abandoning me in wilderness where wild dogs nearly tore me apart, mocking my looks until I hid my birthmark with decorative patches, or trusting quack doctors whose remedies left my skin festering, turning me into a laughingstock, I persisted. I was hell-bent on marrying him, as if cursed by some dark magic. The loves and hatreds of 2 lifetimes tangled endlessly in my dreams. Every face, every scene felt hauntingly familiar. So when the servant uttered those eerily familiar words about the frozen yellow river stranding us in this snowbound town, I jolted awake and peered outside, and there he was, Chui Hezhou, just as I remembered him in his youth. By nature I've always been a playful soul, drawn to tales of spirits, demons, and reincarnation. Stumbling upon this moment where dream and reality blurred didn't frighten me. It set my pulse racing with anticipation. In my dream I was such a fool, foolish enough to love someone who didn't respect me. Then in reality, I'll make sure Chui Hezhou's 3rd reincarnation ends up with nothing. I gazed at the little beggar I'd just brought home, lying unconscious on the bed after taking medicine. His bony fingers trembled slightly, as if troubled by some unease, so I reached out and clasped his ice-cold fingertips. As if comforted by the warmth, the tension in his furrowed brow gradually eased. I chuckled softly, "Just watch how I'll groom Chui Hezhou's future rival to outshine him. Then Big Sis is bound to fancy this Zhou fellow. By then, Chui's sweetheart will have left him, and he'll be outmatched in both wealth and influence. His meltdown will be priceless." 3. I said I'd take good care of Zhouka, but truth be told, I'm not very good at it. I've never been good with living creatures. Every stray cat or dog I brought home ended up being taken care of by my sister when she couldn't bear to watch anymore. The only things I've ever managed to raise properly were silk dolls. That's why this time I'm determined to roll up my sleeves and do it all myself. Don't want to start off on the wrong foot. Good heavens, miss, you needn't bathe him yourself. He's a grown lad. The nursemaid returned with a basin to find me pinning the flustered youth in the tub, comb raised to groom his hair. She stood aghast, utterly at a loss. I saw nothing amiss, treating him as my living doll to dress and fuss over at will. She enunciated each word deliberately. "He belongs to me. I'd do anything." Cradling the boy's damp, frozen face in my hands, I leaned in until our breaths mingled, gazing into his pitch-black eyes. "Your name is Zhou Ke now. From this moment, I am your mistress." You shall obey me for eternity." The boy's fingers whitened as they gripped the edge of the bathtub. I demanded petulantly, "Nod, now." He held my gaze, then nodded. I smiled contentedly, holding up the comb. "All right now. I'm going to tidy up that messy hair of yours. Hold still." Joku forced his body to relax, his soaked clothes floating on the water's surface, but I'd overestimated myself. After just 2 strokes, I spotted something moving in his hair. Terrified, I flung the comb away and shoved him aside roughly. "Ew, lice, disgusting." The nursemaid pulled me away. "My precious young miss, such dirty work isn't for the likes of you. Come now, have your fun and leave it be, I'll take care of it." But something in the nursemaid's words must have struck Joku wrong. Terrified I might reject him, he grabbed the scissors from the basket by the tub and began frantically hacking at his own hair. Several wild slashes later, his cheek was bleeding where the blades had nicked him. Both the nursemaid and I stood frozen in shock. Strands of hair and drops of blood drifted down as the water's surface lay in disarray. Clutching the scissors, his short messy hair made him look like a stray wolf pup, clueless how to please. He could only stare at me helplessly, hearing the commotion. My sister rushed over and froze at the sight, eyeing the shears in the boy's hand with concern. She coaxed me closer and teased, "Does Jenner want to keep a little playmate? Should big sister get you a different one?" By the doorway, a neatly groomed Chui Hejo gazed at me, offering a gentle smile. I was completely baffled. Just as I was about to say he wasn't worthy, footsteps sounded behind me. Suddenly I was yanked from my sister's embrace and pressed against a damp, bony chest. His adolescent voice sounded damaged, hoarse and stubborn. "Miss, mine." A shadow flickered across Chui Hejo's eyes. I turned and flicked Joku's forehead. "Silly, you should say, I am my lady's." His eyes seemed to brighten from the flick. He nodded. Having stayed too long visiting our ancestral home to pay respects to our parents, we needed to hurry back to Uncle's house for New Year. As soon as the river thawed, my sister set out with us. I appeared visibly downcast, because I knew once we returned to Uncle's house, I'd revert to being that unwelcome second cousin, just like in my dreams. Unlike my sister, graceful, proper, and always knowing the right thing to do, I could never measure up. Everyone adored her, from the elders to our cousins. After our parents passed, she took me under her wing with such competence that all of the capital sang her praises. But me, this unsightly birthmark by my eye makes people recoil instinctively. And my temper's worse. Cross me even slightly, and I'll repay the offense tenfold. They only tolerate me for my sister's sake. Eventually I made peace with it. Having her is enough. She's been so good to me. I want to give her the finest things in this world. I watched Joku in the carriage, diligently carving a birthday gift for my sister. His short hair had a small braid I'd woven on the side, tipped with sapphire beads. His face had filled out slightly, with only a faint scar remaining from the scissors. His eyes were particularly striking, like the moon emerging at twilight. No doubt he'll grow into a handsome man someday. His lips pressed tight as his deft hands carved the jade Buddha into exquisite smoothness with a knife. Several discarded attempts still lay in the box beside him. When finished, he handed it to me. This one seemed to be his finest work. I turned it admiringly in my hands. "Yes, this is the most beautiful one. It's for my sister." He shook his head and insisted I wear it. I scolded him. "How many times must I say it? Your sister comes first. You must prioritize her over me." I told him to put it away, but he turned away pretending not to hear, picked up his carving knife, and muttered bluntly, "She's taken care of. Someone treats her well, Chui Hejo." I curled my lip in disdain. "What's he worth? You're leagues ahead of him. One day you'll have him groveling at your feet." Reduced to tears, Joku froze momentarily before raising his eyes with an inscrutable gaze. "Do you hate him?" I nodded. Joku forced a strange, faint smile. "But he seems to like you so much he'd rather see me dead." His words sent chills down my spine. "You're overthinking it," I said incredulously. The bitter winter wind howled outside as carriage bells jingled. We were nearing the capital. Snuggling into the embroidered blanket my sister made, I grew drowsy and murmured with closed eyes, "No one would ever love me, except for sister." The room had been silent for so long that as I was drifting off, I thought I heard someone whisper, "Oh really, but I think too many people like you. So many it makes me want to kill someone." I turned over, convincing myself I must have misheard. 5. At the break of dawn, the carriage passed through the city gates. The Bai family had sent servants to wait at daybreak. "You've made it just in time, miss. The master and mistress have been asking after you constantly, worried you'd be stranded in Bingzhou for the new year." Aunt's personal maid, Mother Chiu, hurried forward and solicitously helped my sister alight from the carriage. My sister pulled her hood tighter, exhaling a frosty breath as she gazed upward. who knew the capital could have such heavy snow. She turned and reached back toward me, who'd fallen a few steps behind. Come, Jenner, time to go home. The Bai family members swept past me as if I were thin air, their puzzled gazes fixed firmly on Master Chui and Master Zhou instead. Seeing me frozen in place, my sister stepped forward, took my hand, and cheerfully explained why she'd taken in both of them. Since Cui Hezhou was the one my sister openly sheltered, the Bai family held their tongues, but their gazes turned noticeably frostier when they glanced at Zhou Ku beside me. I'd grown accustomed to this blatant favoritism, yet I turned to look at Zhou Ku, who seemed oblivious to the deliberate chill in the air, offering me a quiet smile. The group passed the screen wall and walked through several moon gates before arriving at the inner chamber's heated pavilion. My aunt came out personally to lead my sister inside, tenderly chafing her cold hands. My child, you must be exhausted from the journey. As always, she didn't notice me, speaking only to my sister. Your uncle mentioned before he left, we really must move your parents' graves back to our ancestral home, like fallen leaves returning to roots. This annual pilgrimage north is exhausting, not to mention improper. The two women entered the warm pavilion. From behind, I saw my elder sister shake her head and murmur. Father and mother guarded the frontier half their lives. Burying them in the northern lands was their final wish. As their daughter, failing to properly care for them while they lived is already an unforgivable lapse. How could I possibly defy their will? My aunt took my sister's hand and led her to the raised seating area, sighing meaningfully. You've always been the sensible one. I sat to the side, lost in thought. Suddenly someone plopped down beside me and called out, Hey, Shizhen, that odd-looking short-haired fellow under the corridor. Did you pick him up somewhere? I turned my head, glancing at the visitor outside before fixing my gaze on Aunt's youngest daughter. Bai Yun, that girl took particular delight in opposing me. I ignored her. With a cheeky grin, she stretched out her palm. Give it to me, she said. I'll trade you these gold bracelets for it. Without even lifting my eyelids, I replied, No. The girl let out a scornful laugh. Do you really think mimicking Shi Yuguan's saintly act by dragging beggars home will make father and mother notice you? Bai Yun leaned in. Let me make this clear. As long as you're under this roof, you'll always be beneath everyone's notice. Her eyes curved into crescents. What's the harm in handing over some stray trinket? At least you got something tangible this time, unlike those pathetic attempts to curry favor by sewing clothes and shoes for father, mother, and your brothers, only to have them tossed to the servants without a second glance. I finally deigned to glance her way, my smile never reaching my eyes. Fine, if you can tame him and make him follow you willingly. Child's play. I've broken stallions fiercer than this. Bai Yun swiftly slipped off her golden bracelet and handed it to me. Later, Bai Yun took Zhou Ku away, repeating my words verbatim. Zhou Ku seemed somewhat heartbroken. I averted my gaze, refusing to meet his eyes, and idly toyed with the pair of golden bracelets. 6. I didn't quite trust Zhou Ku. He acted far too obedient around me. Nothing like the defiant figure who'd confronted Cui Hezhou in my dreams. How could someone pledge their unwavering loyalty to another person so quickly? I don't buy it. He needs to be tested. My sister disagreed with my approach. If he's entrusted himself to you, you should return that trust. Isn't he your playmate? I said I'd trust him once he passed the trial. My sister pressed her hand on my head like a goddess enlightening the foolish masses. But he doesn't know that. All he knows is you broke your promise and abandoned him. Jenner, this isn't a test. You're hurting him. I didn't understand, but elder sister was always right. At dawn the next day, I hastily freshened up and rushed to Bai Yun's courtyard. Struggling through the uncleared snowy path with dampened skirts, I suddenly encountered Cui Hezhou dressed in his martial attire. Well, he hesitated. Miss, I remained silent. He moved to assist me. The snow's too deep to walk through. Hold on to my arm. Smack, I slapped his hand away, bristling like a porcupine. Get lost. Cui Hezhou froze, his fingers curling limply at his sides. Am I really so detestable to you? Miss, what exactly have I done to offend you? I kicked through the snow, the biting cold seeping into my soles. There's not a single thing about you I like. Move aside. Stop blocking the way. Cui Hezhou's lips twisted. Oh really? Watching me stagger through the deep snow, he suddenly reached out, scooped me up in one arm, and carried me straight across the snowy path before setting me down under the covered walkway. Let go. My grip left red marks all over his face. Steadying myself, I shoved him hard and glared. To my surprise, instead of the cold cruelty from my dream, he smiled and bent forward with what looked like tenderness in his eyes. Eat up, little miss, when you grow up. You'll come to like me. Pure delusion. He even knelt to wipe the melting snow from my toes with his sleeve. Such bizarre behavior that it left me momentarily stunned. Chui Hezhou didn't linger long. With my uncle beginning to select refugees for the Royal Guard reserves at the training grounds, he had to hurry off. This is too important to let Zhou Ke miss out. I need to go get him. Shaking my head, I pushed aside Chui Hezhou's odd behavior for now, gathered my soaked and cumbersome skirt, and ran into Bai Yun's courtyard on the left side of the garden. I'd assumed that Lazybones Bai Yun would still be asleep, perfect for whisking Zhou Ke away unnoticed, but the moment I stepped into the courtyard, I heard her shrieking hysterically, "How dare you resist when I order you to kneel?" 7. Snow startled loose from the eaves. It pattered onto the youth's gaunt shoulders, pinned by several burly servants. He stubbornly kept one knee raised. His bleeding fingers clenched around a barbed iron whip. The eyes that usually gazed at me with docile warmth now burned with terrifying darkness. "I only kneel before the dead." Bai Yun let out a mirthless laugh. Having trained in martial arts with her uncle since childhood, she was no stranger to violence. Releasing her grip, she barked an order for blades to be brought. "That foolish girl really brought back a tough one, didn't she? Very well. Let's see how long your defiance lasts today." The blade was reverently presented. It was the very broadsword my uncle carried to war. "Cousin," I rushed out, swallowing my pride for the first time as I pleaded, "I take it back. Please return him to me." Bai Yun looked at me as if she'd gone deaf, her face twisting in utter bewilderment. "Huh." I shoved the gold bracelet into her arms, brusquely pushed aside Zhou Ke's attendant, yanked him to his feet, and planted myself protectively in front of him, to shut Bai Yun up. I had to bribe her with 2 jade bangles and promise 2 months' worth of copying assignments for her etiquette tutor. Only then did she reluctantly let us go, muttering about me having lost my marbles while admiring her ill-gotten jade bracelets. Zhou remained silent the entire way as I escorted him to the training grounds. My sister was right. I'd hurt him, after always being the one getting hurt. I'd become the domineering type this time. It felt awful. I promised to take him under my wing, yet failed to protect him, just like how my uncle vowed at my mother's deathbed to take care of me. He failed to keep that promise, so did I. As we reached the training grounds, Zhou Ke passed by me with downcast eyes, his tone deliberately deferential. "Thank you for seeing me this far, young mistress. This subordinate shall take his leave now." I couldn't understand why my heart felt clogged with damp, tattered cotton. Hadn't I only meant to use him to spite Chui Hezhou? There was no need to actually treat him as a companion. Truth be told, he was just a beggar, a servant, providing him food, clothes, and a future already made me a saint. Yet something gnawed at me, upon reflection, perhaps because apart from my sister, no one else treated me with such unconditional kindness, always putting me first. I'm too selfish to let go of this precious little favor. The winter light lingers, huddled dimly at my feet. Zhou's departing footsteps halted as he looked down. 2 rigid fingers now clutched his sleeve. "Sorry," I whispered softly. "I won't do it again." A chilly autumn breeze swept quietly through the surroundings. The boy, who seemed to have grown thinner overnight, had sharp brow bones and thick lashes. As he lowered his gaze, his eyes became unreadable, leaving only his hoarse voice audible. "That's the second time you've said that. Push me away again, and I'll really lose my temper." He slightly lowered his stance, locking eyes with me. "You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, miss. I might just devour you, like a starving wolf betrayed by its pack," he said. I thought he was joking because he was smiling, his pitch-black pupils clear and utterly guileless, so I laughed too. 8. Zhou Ke entered the training grounds. Rumor had it my uncle initially refused to take him in, whether because he looked too scrawny or because I'd brought him along. But his death-defying performance on the field was impossible to ignore. In the end, my uncle accepted him. Everyone described the scene as gruesome, but when I visited Zhou Ke, he appeared unscathed, neatly dressed and smiling as he invited me to the Lantern Festival, proudly mentioning he now received a soldier's pay. The Lantern Festival was when the Bai family reunited most completely. The whole household would stroll through lantern fairs and walk away ailments, though my sister, swarmed by crowds, would inevitably lose grip of my hand despite her efforts to include me. Left alone in the bustling crowd, I'd watch her figure grow increasingly distant. Such loneliness never happened when I was with Zhou Ke. His eyes held only me, his hand clasped mine tightly, never letting go even in the densest crowds. Strolling down Imperial Street between the colonnades, we watched football jugglers and tightrope walkers, while overhead floated lantern-lit pagodas and paper puppets dancing like celestial beings. Zhou Ke, raised in the city's underbelly, knew countless wonders, from sword-swallowing stunts to child-sized puppetry, revealing every trick's hidden mechanism to me. The eyes reveal everything. His obsidian black eyes gazed at me with startling clarity. Most deception relies on the eyes to lie for the deceiver. The truth is hard to uncover because your own vision betrays you first. Zhou sometimes spoke with this oddly mature wisdom. I never quite understood it. The dragon-shaped pleasure boat glided past, its gilded splendor mesmerizing me as I leaned over the bridge railing. 9. The wealthy always have their amusements. No sooner is the lantern festival over than the spring hunt begins. Truth be told, spring came late this year, with intermittent snowfall and grass yet to flourish, but Bai Yun pestered her family for an outing to the mountains until they relented. Gazing at the fading autumn hues on the slopes, I recalled an identical scene from my dreams, where I'd stubbornly demanded to ride my sister's horse, insisting Cui Hezhou hold the reins for me. My riding skills were poor, and that day a sudden snowstorm disoriented my horse, leading me deep into the remote woods. Cui Hezhou had been following me, but abandoned me when he heard my sister calling for me. After being attacked by wild dogs and badly frightened, my temper grew even more erratic. I forced my sister to arrange my betrothal to Cui Hezhou before I even came of age. The sky was overcast with a chilly breeze, an ominous day. I gazed thoughtfully at the stable in the distance. Even if my personality differs from reality in dreams, my horse remains the same as my sister's. Why insist on changing it? The Bai siblings were helping my sister choose a saddle. With Bai Yun being particularly attentive, she personally saddled the horse for her. As I approached, I noticed Cui Hezhou staying close to my sister's side, which eased my mind somewhat. He may treat me poorly, but he's absolutely devoted to my sister. If danger arises, he'd protect her without hesitation. Yet this nagging unease lingers like an invisible splinter beneath the skin. As my sister mounted the horse, a sudden realization struck me. Since when did Bai Yun treat her sister so well? She clearly resented how the family favored her sister over her, their own flesh and blood. My heart clenched as I stepped forward, choosing to trust the version of myself from the dream, trusting, no matter how wicked I become, I'll always protect my sister. I rushed over, grabbed my sister's reins, and looked up saying, "Sis, I love this horse you're riding, let's trade." 10. The moment I spoke, multiple pairs of eyes turned toward me. Elder sister smiled indulgently while Cui Hezhou's gaze turned complicated, and Bai Yun, her eyes darted downward, and I caught a fleeting glimpse of resentment. This horse is definitely trouble. Apparently Cui Hezhou finally realized I wasn't being willful in the past 2 lives by insisting on taking sister's horse. He approached as if to help me with the reins, but his outstretched hand was intercepted midair. Zhou coolly stepped between us, helping me mount the horse, with a gust of wind. The horse took off. Zhou followed close behind. My hands trembled on the reins as the blizzard intensified before us, the horse growing increasingly unruly, yet I found my courage, perhaps because, I turned around, someone walked behind me, their grip on my hand unyielding no matter what may come. "Come here." Zhou controlled the reins with one hand while scooping me off the runaway horse with the other. The world spun as snowflakes swirled around us, my gaze fixed on the boy's clenched jaw. The gamble paid off, I thought, but we still tumbled off the horse. The impact was brutal. Zhou wrapped his arms around me as we rolled across the ground, his back slamming against a rock with a pained grunt. "Zhou," as I tried to help him up, a chilling wind carried the guttural growls of beasts to my ears. Pairs of eerie green eyes crept closer through the darkness. Wild dogs, they're here already, didn't expect them this soon. Zhou struggled to prop himself up and shoved me. Run to the back. He was trying to draw the wild dogs away from me. Without a word, I turned on my heel, leaving Zhou's hand hanging awkwardly in midair. He staggered to a stop, as if long accustomed to being the first one left behind. Just as he braced himself to face the charging hound alone, a stone came flying from behind him and struck the beast. The dog collapsed, dropping something which I swiftly scooped up. "Run." I grabbed him and sprinted downhill with all my might. The momentum made pulling him along effortless, but our headlong dash was too fast. Several dogs were hot on our heels. Zhou stumbled and fell. Without hesitation, I yanked him sideways into a roll. Dust stung our eyes as the wild dogs overshot the hollow and moved on. The 2 of us were a mess, covered in grass and snow dust as I lay panting heavily beside him. Alive again. Zhou stared at me, swallowing hard. I grinned triumphantly, turned to meet his gaze, and opened my palm, letting a metal dog tag clatter out. "Look what I found." Bai Yun's weak spot. Zhou remained silent, his gaze lingering on the birthmark by the corner of my eye. The prolonged stare made me uneasy. I frowned and told him to stop looking. "Don't look into my eyes. They hold no beauty. The outer corners bear heaven's careless brushstroke, like a smudge of filth upon fresh snow." 11. Cui Hezhou found us with startling speed. My sister broke into a cold sweat from fright. Though I remained unharmed, she fell ill shortly after. The wet nurse said wild dogs nearly snatched me as an infant. My sister still blames herself for failing to protect me. How did a stray dog get in here? A flicker of doubt crossed my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. I was too busy preparing to extort Bai Yun. I've seen that metal dog tag at the Bai residence before. Definitely not a stray, among the Bai family. Only Bai Yun keeps wolves and dogs as pets. She's a nasty piece of work. But not particularly bright, though I ended up being the one hurt. That horse did belong to my sister. If our uncle looked into it properly, she'd be in real trouble. So she had to buy my silence with favors, got the jade bracelet back. Zhou Ke's allowance was increased too, paid from her personal savings, not to mention hiring tutors for Zhou Ke, covering his writing supplies, going through all this trouble for some lowborn. She sneered. I'd just finished looting her place and was feeling smug when her words soured my mood. I stepped forward and grabbed her face. Cousin, you'd better watch that mouth of yours. If I hear you've hurt my sister or him again, I'll make you pay in kind. She looked at my dead serious expression and suddenly burst out laughing. Xinjin, remember, we were so close when you first arrived. I thought we were the same, equally wicked, equally unloved by our family, then I abandoned you. You were heartbroken, begging to know why. She rested her cheek in my palm with a tilt of her head, her gaze 9 parts mocking and 1 part pity. I didn't say it back then, but I'm telling you now, because you're such a fool. So foolish you keep believing someone will love you forever despite all the hurt. You act all prickly, but every barb points inward, with a heart absurdly tender. We're nothing alike. I wrenched my hand away coldly and walked out without a word. Bai Yun's whisper came from behind. Let me give you some advice too. The eyes deceive most. Those who appear kindest will wound you deepest in the end. Xinjin, stop being that love-starved child. Better to be the villain. At least your heart won't get broken. I didn't listen. 12. This year marks my coming-of-age ceremony. My elder sister went to great lengths, promising to throw me a grand birthday celebration, though I pretended her mere company would suffice. The corners of my mouth already betrayed my delight. The Bai family places great importance on a maiden's coming-of-age celebration. We'd rise at dawn to pray at Xian Temple, then hire traveling troops to perform till midnight. When the season called for it, we'd have delicacies shipped from across the land to feast our guests. By the waterside pavilion, the fading scent of late summer lotuses lingered as the humid breeze stirred our sashes. Zhou Ke regarded me with a smile. I walked backward along the covered walkway, chatting animatedly. That autumn when Bai Yun came of age, we feasted on crabs, a whole bargeful shipped upriver by her aunt Jiangnan relatives. But for my sister's ceremony in early spring, while I still crusted the rivers, my uncles and brothers procured silverfish, live shrimp, liaodong pine nuts, wild roe deer, southern phoenix-tailed oranges, and tea from Tiger Hill's first sprouts. My words trailed off as I leaned against the railing, lost in thought. Even the snowfall that day was featherlight. Guests gathered in warm chambers among vases of freshly cut plum blossoms, their fragrance lingering as toasts were raised, wishing my sister lifelong happiness upon her coming of age. Zhou Ke walked over and leaned against the railing with me, asking what I'd like for my coming-of-age ceremony. After much thought, I replied, sincerity. As long as those who come to celebrate genuinely wish me well, I'd be happy with any gift they bring. Zhou Ke gazed at me as the wind swept his hair across his temple. I tilted my head slightly, hiding the birthmarked side of my face in shadow. He's grown into quite the handsome young man. The maids in the household blush whenever they see him. I take pride in how well I've raised him, yet there's this creeping dread I can't quite shake. It's a shadowy feeling I dare not confront. If I could take back my words, I'd beg my sister not to fancy him. She's already got plenty of admirers. What difference would one less Zhou Ke make? On this day, I cashed in my birthday wish in advance. I prayed not for others' blessings, but only for the genuine hearts of my sister and Zhou Ke. Distant thunder rumbled as the wind churned the waters. It seemed the heavens replied, very well, Xinjin, I've heard you. Your wish shall be granted. 13. The day before my coming-of-age ceremony. Rain poured from the heavens like a punctured sky. The nursemaid stumbled on the stone steps as she carried rain gear, buffeted by the gale-force winds, brushing her damp clothes with lingering fright. She shook her head and muttered, age catches up with us all. Looking up, she saw me dashing outside excitedly, holding what appeared to be a letter. She asked in surprise, where are you going, miss? The rain's too heavy. Don't run about. I opened my umbrella and stepped into the rain, waving the paper that had just flown through the window. Mr. Zhou says he's afraid I'll be too busy tomorrow, so he's wishing me an early happy birthday. I laughed. The nursemaid waved a letter in her hand too. Here's a letter for you that came through the side gate. I didn't pay it much mind, just had my nurse help me undo it first, arriving near the rose trellis at Swallow Return Hall as Joku had written. Yet his figure was nowhere to be seen, holding my umbrella. I scanned the area in puzzlement when a glance upward revealed Joku's silhouette by the rockery. Before I could speak, Chui Hezhou came into view. The air between them grew tense, as if they were arguing. I moved closer, standing by the rose trellis. Stop lying to her. Chui Hezhou's voice. Who are you trying to fool? I frowned slightly. The pouring rain nearly drowned out their voices, yet I still caught it. Chui Hezhou called Joku Aku. He said, Aku, stop deceiving Jinjin. She's completely naive, Joku replied calmly. Deceive? Who isn't a swindler here, including you? Playing the young master after staying here too long. Chui the second. We crawled out of the same gutter, surviving by lies and theft. What? Only you're allowed to chase riches while I can't even try, he chuckled. Or have your tastes changed? Tired of that holier-than-thou saint and taken a liking to my plain little girl? Chui Hezhou's chest heaved as he grabbed Joku by the collar. I'm warning you, never joke about her birthmark again. Joku shoved him away, his voice dropping to an ominous low. What the hell's gotten into you? Back when you were begging at Guanyin Temple, night after night you'd carve Shiyu Temple into stones, dreaming of nothing else. You'd hoard moldy buns people tossed your way rather than eat them. Now it's Shinjin this and Shinjin that. Can't wait to kick me aside and go wag your tail for her. Since when did you become such a lovesick busybody? Raindrops beaded on Chui Hezhou's brows, tracing the ridge of his nose as his lips trembled with resigned acceptance. She's different, you wouldn't understand. Silence swallowed everything but the rain and his murmured vow. I'll marry her. Joku remained indifferent. He said, suit yourself. Chui Hezhou was trying to climb the social ladder by leveraging the Bai and Shi family's influence. If he couldn't marry the elder sister, he'd settle for the younger. That had nothing to do with Joku. The future he schemed for was now his. That's why he couldn't care less whether that homely girl Shijin jumped from one hellhole into another. He turned around, his brows furrowed with savage irritation. Then he saw me. Rain fell from above as cold mist rose beneath my feet. The heavens mock me. Look, Shinjin, I've let you down again. 14. Joku took a step, as if moving toward me. Stay back. I glared at him with pure hatred. He froze. Liar, fake, the Buddha carved on my neck is a lie. Your promise to never let go was empty. You said the mark by my eye isn't heaven's flaw, but spring's first green breaking through snow, tenacious grass, a promise of hope, with hope etched on my face. I'll never fall. Lies. Raindrops fell into my eyes, then trickled down, like something burrowed from my eyes into my heart, only to be gouged out and thrown into the mud. I tore the Buddha pendant from my neck and smashed it hard into Joku's face. He remained motionless, a gash at the corner of his eye sending a crimson trail down his face. Get the hell out of here, now. Rain and tears streaked my face as I spoke with measured calm, each word deliberate. I never, ever want to see you again. Roses past their prime rot in the muddy rain, trampled underfoot with each step. I turned and walked away briskly. Within moments, Chui Hezhou picked up my umbrella and came running after me. Shinjin, without breaking stride. I whirled around and flung the paper at him, on the verge of collapse. You're a fake too, fraud, using Joku's forged handwriting to lure me here. What's he staring at? Pretending to sincerely expose Joku's saintly acts. I can't take this anymore. Only my sister, only she would never lie to me. I'm going to find her. A passing servant mentioned she's in the study right now. I turned and went over. Since my sister loved the sound of rain and snow tapping on bamboo. The study was built in a bamboo loft. Footsteps would also be quite audible. But my uncle was there too, and the two were so engrossed in their serious discussion that they didn't notice my arrival at first. I wiped the water from my face and leaned against the window, waiting for them to finish talking before going in. Uncle said in a low voice, Guaner, you've already done enough for Jinjin. Now that her aunt has found her and wants to take her away, it's a good thing. Why can't you just let go? I blinked slowly, rainwater trickling down. 15. My sister's voice had never sounded so urgent as she said, leave, go where? This is her home, uncle. She's still so young. Do you really want her to wander the world with some wandering woman? The teacup was set down with a clink. Those are her real family. Her uncle said coldly, we've raised her for over a decade. That's mercy beyond measure. Guaner, don't forget her father was your father's political rival. Every demotion your father suffered, every hardship your mother endured at the border, all were caused by her father, Song Xiu. Her sister burst into tears, but father was indirectly responsible for wiping out her entire family. Dead silence filled the room. Rain pounded the bamboo house like a cascading waterfall, its thunderous roar resembling collapsing structures. Dizzy, I stared at my toes, feeling myself plummet downward. My sister's voice trembled. When Mother and I found her in the alley, she was still swaddled in blankets, clutched in the arms of her 6-year-old sister. Wild dogs circled them hungrily. Her sister had already died, and she herself was nearly frozen to death. Song Xiao was at fault back then, and so was my father. But what wrong did those girls ever commit? From that day on, Mother made me swear to become her elder sister. Uncle, you too swore by Mother's sickbed. You promised to cherish her, to care for her all her life. My sister covered her face, choking back sobs. Do you have any idea how desperately she longed for your love? When bullies picked on her as a child, she'd tell them about her general uncle and all her elder siblings, how you'd always stand up for her. Why couldn't you ever show her just a little more tenderness? Even her mischief was just a cry for your attention. She never missed preparing thoughtful gifts for every single family birthday, yet now on the eve of her own coming-of-age ceremony, you couldn't even wait till tomorrow before casting her out. The elder sister broke down, her body shaking with silent sobs against the table. After a long silence, General Bai heaved a sigh and rose to pat his niece's shoulder. Very well. If your heart truly can't bear to part with her, let her stay. But Guaner, you must understand, her aunt has already arrived in the capital and will eventually claim her, and with your own marriage approaching, you can't possibly keep her with you forever. You know how this child despises deceit. It's best to tell her these things sooner rather than later. Elder sister's voice trembled with sorrow. I'll let her enjoy her birthday first. We'll speak of this afterward. The bamboo house was utterly silent now. You could hear a pin drop. Yet I descended the stairs soundlessly, breath held like a specter drifting away unnoticed. 16. I returned to my courtyard like a drowned ghost, finding lamplight and waiting company inside. It's Nanny. She'd fallen asleep waiting, slumped over the table. The letter remained unopened. Beside it lay a note in her clumsy, scrawling handwriting, the very script I'd once insisted on teaching her. My girl will be grown tomorrow, with secrets of her own. Nanny mustn't pry into your letters anymore. The following line of instruction: Nanny's grown old and sleeps soundly. When you return, remember to wake me. I'll make you longevity noodles. I swallowed hard, picked up the letter on the table, and opened it. The brushstrokes flowed with unconstrained elegance. Opening line: How are you, my dear niece Shinjin? She introduced herself as my aunt, saying she'd searched for me for years and was overjoyed to finally hear from me. These few pages could never fully express what's in her heart. She left an address, hoping I'd visit her there after receiving this letter. The letter contained some money and a twinfish jade pendant. I stood motionless by the table for a long while. The candle flame flickered, with damp lashes weighing heavy. I walked to the bed and saw a newly tailored dress, my sister's birthday gift for me, so exquisite, embroidered with my favorite wisteria blossoms. Wearing this coming-of-age dress tomorrow will surely make me look like a proper young lady. I gave it a light touch but didn't take it, walked around the room, only to end up empty-handed. There was nothing worth taking, so what should I leave behind? Watching my nanny fast asleep, I draped a coat over her shoulders, then sat at the desk, dipped my brush in ink, and left her a note. Nanny, stay well, don't grow old. Then almost without thinking, I spread out a fresh sheet of paper and wrote, Sister. The ink congeals at my brush tip, 1,000 words left unwritten, a heavy drop falls. Smearing the last traces of sister on the page, I lay down my brush, abandoning the attempt. On summer's final afternoon, I step out into the wind-whipped rain, leave all those grudges and passions behind with a riot of colors. When I reached the inn mentioned in the letter, dusk had fallen, the sky dark as midnight. The porch light flickered as a woman opened the door from within. She saw me standing there, drenched and deathly pale. She froze for a heartbeat before rushing forward and pulling me into a tight embrace. 17. I left with my aunt. She told me my name was Song Zhen, and that I had an elder sister 6 years my senior named Song Yi. My sister took after father's looks, while I resembled mother. My hometown is Chuzhou, where crimson trees meet emerald hills, and orioles sing among purple cherry blossoms. Snow rarely falls here. During the rainy season, the downpour is so heavy it leaves even stoves damp. Most children here can swim, often gathering by the waterside in summer. My elder sister was the most skilled swimmer among us, as elusive as a fish, always getting scolded by mother when dragged back from the shore. While pregnant with me, she begged mother for a baby sister so she could take me swimming, free to glide wherever the currents led. When soldiers came raiding our home, my quick-witted sister started a fire, then leapt through a window with me cradled in her arms. But she must have been gravely wounded, barely managing to hide us both in an alley before passing away. Who would have thought the Shi family would find and raise me as their own? What a cruel twist of fate. My aunt sighed, leaning against the ship's railing. back when my brother-in-law and Shi Dingyan took the imperial exams together. They were peers, but later they ended up in opposing factions. As a leader of the Zhujiang faction within the reformists, my brother-in-law had always mediated disputes between the factions, hoping to prevent the reforms from becoming tools for political vendettas, and shook her head. Once embroiled in the game, there's no perfect move. When my brother-in-law submitted a memorial exposing the collusion between officials and merchants to seize farmland in Jiangnan, Xi's political rivals within the reformist faction seized the opportunity to frame Shi Dingyan, resulting in his brutal exile to the northern frontier. Then the young emperor fell ill, halting the reform movement. With the Empress Dowager assuming power, the conservatives were reinstated, old grudges resurfaced in the chaos. No one could tell friend from foe anymore. The conservatives were determined to eradicate the reformists completely, leaving no chance for their resurgence. At that time, Shi Dingyan was preoccupied with defending the border against invaders, unaware the imperial court would stir such turmoil. His old faction allies used his reputation as a banner, inciting partisans in the capital to clear his name and seek vengeance. Thus, the Song family became the first target marked for extermination, wounded and fallen in battle. Shi Dingyan let out a mournful sigh upon hearing the news before his death. Though I did not slay Boren died because of me. He then urged his wife and daughter to return swiftly to the capital, instructing them to contact the Bai family to locate the Song family's orphaned child and ensure proper care. My aunt recounted these old grudges to me in fragments during our journey, wanting me to understand one thing. Shenzhen, those who truly wronged our family have either perished or been exiled. The tides of officialdom rise and fall. After all these years of strife, has anyone truly come out unscathed? She gripped my hand tightly in the wind. Though the Bai family is wealthy and young mistress, she treats you well. I fear for you. The capital is a den of wolves. If the Bai family ever falls from grace, where would you turn? Looking at me as if seeing my mother's reflection, with tears glistening in her eyes, my aunt hastily wiped them away and smiled. I may be rough around the edges, unable to offer you a noble marriage like proper ladies do, but as your mother's daughter, I know you crave freedom. Roaming the rivers and lakes with me may not bring riches, but it'll give you the joy of living as you please. Hearing this, I smiled for the first time in over a fortnight, tilting my face upward. I closed my eyes and let the river breeze tousle my hair as the lone sail drifted away. 18. When my eyes opened again, I was still aboard the ship. Autumn mist curled in the air as familiar sights greeted me. A voice called out, "Miss." The boss sent word. We're to meet him in the capital with this shipment, sword in hand. I turned with the wind tugging at my hair ribbon and smiled. Understood. For years had passed. The place I once fled in panic can now be stepped upon with calm. This time, the escort agency was transporting the Mid-Autumn Festival gifts for old Prince Zhongheng. The prince, being an old acquaintance of my maternal grandfather, held great trust in my aunt. My aunt had me present myself at the prince's residence this time, partly to give me experience. The prince's steward led me to the reception study. Passing through an ornate archway, I saw antique shelves displaying various curios, 2 scrolls of calligraphy and painting, 2 pots of chrysanthemums in full bloom, several chairs by the table, and an incense burner on the desk emitting fragrant smoke. As I was looking around, a shadow seemed to be peering through the lattice window opposite. Suspicious, I stepped forward, but before I could get a clear look, the steward spoke behind me. His Highness has arrived. I quickly turned to bow and saw an elderly gentleman in dark robes with a refined beard. His sharp eyes briefly met mine as he smiled faintly. No need for formalities. Please, sit. The steward served tea as the prince remarked. With bandits running rampant these days, transporting valuables would be impossible without your escort agency. Your safe arrival in the capital with both goods and personnel intact proves your aunt entrusted this task to the right person. With a humble bow, I demurred. My martial skills are but rudimentary, having learned the craft late in life. It's only through His Highness and my aunt's trust, and the escort agency's collective effort, that I've come this far. The prince smiled without dwelling on nostalgic small talk or maintaining formal distance. This very demeanor signaled he regarded me as kin. Shortly thereafter, the steward entered, indicating visitors had arrived in the main hall. Taking the cue, I rose to take my leave. The prince gestured downward with his hand. You shall stay here, knowing my aunt had occasionally lodged at the princely residence during her visits to the capital, and recalling her letter advising me not to decline the prince's hospitality excessively, I nodded graciously and bowed in gratitude. After the two departed the study, I sat sipping tea while awaiting the housekeeper who would show me to my quarters. Just as the tea touched my lips, that familiar sensation of being watched returned. the gaze burned with such intensity and longing. It felt like it could pierce through the paper window and cling to my skin, deeply unsettling. Frowning, I set down the teacup and stared at the window before cautiously approaching. Who's there? Sure enough, a tall, slender figure stood there. But the moment I drew near, it vanished like a gust of wind through the rustling bamboo shadows. I was mildly perplexed. A few days later, when my aunt came to the capital, I told her about this matter. My aunt frowned and thought, the prince enjoys befriending martial artists. Those capable of such lightness skills must be from the Skyhawk Pavilion. Skyhawk Pavilion, 19, I've heard of them. This martial arts sect operates in utmost secrecy, hand-picking children with exceptional potential from infancy. They're trained either as elite assassins for noble houses or as covert operatives, weaving intelligence networks across the realm to gather information sold at exorbitant prices through their inner chambers. The news of my whereabouts in the Bai household was uncovered by my aunt through a former member of the Skyhawk Pavilion. Yet my aunt remarked, strangely enough, that man refused payment. He even warned that the Bai residence was no safe haven, urging me to fetch you away promptly. I lowered my gaze, sensing a fleeting thought brush against my mind, elusive, just beyond comprehension. Had to prioritize the most urgent matter first. What happened to the Bai family? Having traveled the southern regions with me these years, Aunt remained unaware of capital affairs until the prince revealed everything at dusk. The entire Bai household was imprisoned. My heart skipped a beat as I leaned in to listen carefully to the prince's words. These past few days, the Bai family's old acquaintances have been visiting frequently, hoping I could mediate and find some solution. The prince shook his head. Ever since Her Majesty relinquished power years ago, we old imperial clansmen have had even less say before His Majesty. His Majesty is young and in his prime, yet profoundly calculating. When first ascending the throne, he appointed reformist factions to enact sweeping changes, only to feign illness and retreat under the Empress Dowager's pressure. Re-emerging with renewed vigor in recent years, the Bai family had long been staunch allies of the Shi clan and the Empress Dowager's faction. After Shi Dingyan's death, General Bai assumed command of the border forces, a development that inevitably aroused the emperor's suspicion. The Bai family's imprisonment stemmed from courtiers capitalizing on Lady Bai's visit to the Empress Dowager, spreading rumors that the Bais were conspiring to transfer military control to the Dowager's youngest son, Princeton. Already distrustful of the Bais, the emperor found these rumors increasingly credible when correspondence between General Bai and Princeton surfaced, though the letters merely documented their unlikely friendship without political references. They undeniably proved their close relationship. Moreover, General Bai intends to marry his niece, the young lady Shi, to Princeton. On my way back to my chamber, I was in a daze. Xinjin, my aunt gazed at me with concern. She pulled me close and reassured me. The Bai family hasn't spent all these years in the capital for nothing. If those people managed to petition the prince directly, they must have other connections too. Your cousin from the Shi family will be just fine. I lowered my gaze in silence. Entering the room, I sat by the window polishing my sword, lost in thought. I caught the whisper of a breeze as moonlight cast dappled shadows at my feet. My ears twitched, and I flicked a jujube from the fruit bowl without looking. Who's skulking in the shadows? Show yourself. The jujube was caught. The figure leapt down from the beam like a cat, cloaked in knight's mantle, dust-laden, standing in the half-light. My furrowed brows relaxed in sudden astonishment. I stared at the newcomer with bitter resentment. It's you, 20. Zhou Ke walked over with a jujube in hand and placed it beside me. He'd grown much taller, his hair longer too, though the same small braid still framed his face, tipped with those faded blue beads. I edged away, unwilling to let him get close. He lowered his gaze, measuring the distance between us with an impassive expression. Stay out of the Bai family's affairs. That's beyond your reach, I scoffed coldly. Whether I act or not isn't for you to decide. Without offering any explanation, he turned away and said coolly, I'll be watching you. You're insane. I hurled that jujube hard at his back again, but he didn't even turn around. Liar. A few walnuts followed, then oranges, candied fruits, and finally the wooden tray. The place was a complete mess. He left after all. Son of a bitch. I crouched down, curled up against the wall, and buried my head in my hands. It was all part of his carefully laid scheme. Zhou Ke was an operative from the Sky Eagle Pavilion, planted in the Bai household alongside Cui Hezhou to gather intelligence. With informants everywhere, he knew the Bai family's prominence made them vulnerable to collapse. The note that deliberately lured me there and the servant who conveniently mentioned my sister's whereabouts in the bamboo pavilion, both were his doing. He knew I wouldn't abandon my sister lightly. Only when I realized there was nothing left for me in the Bai household would I leave in bitter resignation. My sister did it, and so did he. Everyone deceived me in their own way, thinking it was for my own good, yet not a single soul bothered to ask if this was truly what I wanted. But how could I blame them? I couldn't. Because they all had one simple reason for doing this: I was worthless. My sister knew I couldn't handle the truth about our family. And Joku understood I lacked the ability to salvage the crumbling house of Bai. Moonlight floods the window, stretching a solitary shadow. A sigh escapes. The one who left turned back, towering still, then sinking to his knees. He gently pries open my rigid arms, pressing his gaunt cheek to mine to brush away the tear at my eye's edge. Don't be afraid, you've got me. I'll always be yours. I shoved his face away in anger, sinking my teeth hard into his shoulder. Liar, you never listened to me. The bite was vicious, yet Joku chuckled deeply, his hand gently stroking the back of my head in soothing motions. Letting me vent my fury, he said, "You're mine too. Will you obey me?" "Absolutely not. I must save my sister, no matter what." Joku understood perfectly, gripping my clenched jaw with one hand. He tilted my face up and massaged it, sighing, "See, this is exactly why I can't trust you. You're such a stubborn child." "I won't say a word." He cupped my face, his thumb brushing deliberately over the bluish birthmark at the corner of my eye, as if branding the memory into me. "Miss, I'm no saint. I only care about keeping you safe. Others be damned. If you insist on this reckless path, I'll have to lock you away." It carried the same threat as that other warning: "Push me away, and I'll devour you whole," like a joke. But this time he didn't laugh, solemnly placing the discarded Buddha pendant back around my neck, repeating those same words. "She's got someone who treats her right, Chui Hezhou." I would have believed it before, but now, I'm skeptical. The current situation is completely different from what happened in the dream. If Chui Hezhou has already risen to power, why hasn't my sister been rescued after being imprisoned for so long? 21. Unable to rest easy, I sneaked out to the Ministry of Justice prison one night without telling my aunt. Seizing an opportunity, I quietly knocked out a kitchen hand delivering meals, disguised myself with most of my face covered, and slipped in pushing a handcart. The prison was a maze of winding corridors, dodging guards. I stumbled along blindly until, by sheer luck, I accidentally stumbled upon where the Bai family women were held. Spotting my sister, my heart leapt with joy, until footsteps approached. I ducked into hiding. It was Chui Hezhou, clad in embroidered robes with a jade-inlaid belt. He looked every bit as haughty as in her dreams. Yet instead of delight at seeing her beloved, the sister averted her eyes with indifference. The aunt glared coldly at him. "Scoundrel." Chui Hezhou arched a brow, ignoring the aunt's venomous stare as his gaze remained fixed on the sister. "A dust-covered pearl in this dim chamber. He seems to be making some kind of deal with my sister." I frowned and strained my ears to listen carefully. After piecing everything together, I was so furious I could bite someone. That despicable bastard actually forced my sister to become his concubine, demanding she reveal my whereabouts so he could take us both as his concubines and keep us sisters together forever. His voice slithered like a sewer snake, too bitter to reach the lofty moon, so he'd rather drag it down into the mud for spiteful satisfaction. "Yuguan, you walked this path yourself. When I spoke kindly, you scorned being my wife. Now, you've no choice left." Elder sister remained expressionless, closing her eyes. Chui Hezhou chuckled at the silence, approaching the curled-up woman in the corner. "Third Miss Bai, you're clever. Surely you won't let their so-called pride bury you alongside them." "It's Bai Yun." I almost didn't recognize her. Her face was gaunt and smeared with grime, only the mocking curl of her lips revealing traces of the girl I once knew. She murmured softly, "Of course, they're unafraid of death, but I am. When my cousin refused to marry the lord out of stubborn pride, what choice had I? Though if his lordship seeks Xinjian's whereabouts, I might know a thing or two." As her words hung in the air, my sister and aunt tensed, their gazes snapping toward her. "Yun," my aunt actually spoke up to shield me, trying to stop Bai Yun from continuing. Chui Hezhou grinned in satisfaction, bracing his knees as he squatted down. "I'm all ears." Bai Yun also smiled, enunciating each word deliberately. "The martial world shows no mercy. That silly girl, thinking she could roam the lands with her aunt, must have gotten herself killed by now. If you want her, go fetch her yourself." "You," Chui Hezhou snapped, thrusting his arm through the iron bars in an attempt to strangle Bai Yun. Bai Yun was no pushover. Having tamed every beast since childhood, she seized the moment to swing her wrist chains, smashing Chui's nose bridge with a sickening crack as blood sprayed. "You swamp-dwelling toad. Climbed to power by trampling your benefactor, and now you dare lust after phoenix flesh. Go suck your father's farts." She unleashed a torrent of curses before being hastily pulled back by her aunt and sister. Through the iron bars, Chui Hezhou pressed a hand to his bruised nose, glaring at them with venom. Fine, just fine. Then we'll settle this at the execution grounds. Radiating malice, he turned on his heel and stormed off. Only when everyone had completely left did I push the food cart out from the shadows on the other side. I covered my face, until I figured out how to rescue them. I couldn't let my sister know and worry. My sister nodded as she received the meal, her gentle demeanor undiminished even in captivity. Thank you, she said, seeing her once delicate fingers now rough and scarred. My eyes stung. I lowered my head and clenched my teeth to stay silent. My sister didn't notice anything amiss. Just as I was about to leave, she opened the lunchbox and froze. She whirled around and grabbed my retreating hand. 22, you. My sister cut herself off, frantically scanning our surroundings before lowering her voice in agitation. What are you doing here? Get out now. Both my aunt and Bayun, who had been idly swinging a captured mouse in the corner, turned to look at the sound. They froze when they saw my eyes. Are you out of your mind? Coming to play in a place like this? Bayun murmured in astonishment. I pressed my lips together and stood up. I'll come back for you. My sister slapped my hand and shoved me hard. You fool. Get out of here now. My aunt snapped out of it, wearing that all too familiar look of exasperated disappointment. How did your aunt raise you? Still as reckless as ever. Quick, Gwaner, drive her away. Since I'd already been caught, I figured I might as well ask if they had any messages for the outside world that I could deliver. Mind your own business. My aunt joined in hitting me. It was Bayun who leaned in and gave me a task. Help me look for my dog when you have time. My aunt smacked my head hard. Still thinking about that damn dog. I can't stay long. I stubbornly repeated under my breath. I'll come back to save you, no matter what. With that, I pushed the cart away. Just as I was about to disappear around the corner, my sister suddenly called out urgently behind me. Jenner, as I turned away. She seemed to realize this might be our last meeting. Her eyes lingered over every inch of me before she finally smiled with relief. Her lips trembled silently, yet I understood every unspoken word. Overcome with emotion, I hastily turned my back and hurried away. Only after leaving the prison did I find a deserted alley, where I slumped against the wall and sobbed uncontrollably. My sister said, I've grown taller. 23, wiping away my tears. I was about to leave the alley to seek advice from my uncle's old acquaintances, but someone stood blocking the alley's exit. Zhou Ke caught me as promised, locking me in a waterside pavilion, the clanking of chains outside as I pound on the doors and windows. Zhou Ke, you can't do this to me. I won't be grateful. I'll only hate you. Do you hear me? The man paces slowly past the window outside while I mirror his steps inside, frantic. Zhou Ke, bastard. The man stopped and gave me a sidelong glance. He said, I told you she's got people covering her back. Why won't you listen? I shouted angrily. Who? Cui Hezhou, that fucking animal. If not him, there'd be others. Zhou Ke lowered his gaze and murmured, Xinjin, she has family. Even if General Bai couldn't protect himself, he'd move heaven and earth to shield her and the Bai women. But you, would they do the same for you? He said, Xinjin. Have you forgotten how the Bai family neglected you? How utterly alone you were there? I froze momentarily, then after a brief silence, shook my head. That's not true. Were the Bai family truly cruel to me? They shared no blood relation with me, and were even nominal political adversaries of my father. They raised me in their household with the same privileges as their daughters, equal education, private tutors never missed a day, doctors when I fell ill, birthday banquets when I came of age. When mischievous, I faced punishments just like Bayun. At every social gathering with my two sisters, whether aunt or cousin introduced me, they'd always say, my daughters, our three younger sisters. Bayun always claimed they favored her as little as they did me. She said the clothes and shoes I painstakingly made were scorned, never worn, just given to servants. But did I witness this myself? What I saw was aunt carefully storing my handmade garments in the wardrobe, then chiding me offhandedly. All this effort on embroidery would be better spent practicing your chicken scratch handwriting. Even Bayun's dogs, which she originally set loose to chase after me and my sister, never actually harmed me. Those dogs obeyed her every command and would devour any meat. Had she truly wanted me injured, they wouldn't have just barked and run away. My profound disappointment stemmed from having long regarded them as family, like Bayun. I yearned for their special favor. All these years, I've been mistaken, believing fate has always dealt me the short end of the stick. In truth, the heavens were telling me, Xinjin, what the eyes perceive may deceive, but what the heart feels never lies. No matter how deeply concealed, its truth remains. You must constantly examine your conscience and reflect. Have you taken shortcuts out of fear of hardship on the path you should walk? Have you neglected those you ought to protect due to prejudice or carelessness, choosing to abandon them instead? Gripping the window lattice, I said earnestly to Zhou Ku, I know charging ahead when success seems impossible may appear foolish to you, but I simply wish to contribute my effort, however insignificant it may be. The gloom-laden sky stretched endlessly in oppressive shades of gray. Through the window, Zhou Ku locked eyes with me. He actually had gentle eyes, the kind that could easily make people mistake him for soft-hearted, if not for his harsh words, and that was indeed the truth. He unfastened the chains, just like when he'd first let go of my hand years ago to carve out a path for my survival, granting me freedom. I trust my heart. The reason I fell for someone like him in my youth must lie in some unspoken kinship between our souls. 24. From Zhou Ku's intelligence. I learned my uncle had already orchestrated a prison break from inside his cell. Driven to this point, my uncle must have been utterly desperate. He likely realized the young emperor's deliberate delay in trying the Bai family case was simply waiting for his suicide. The emperor wanted to avoid the infamy of executing a loyal general. His true aims were reclaiming border army control, suppressing the old faction, and aggressively implementing reforms. With the general's death and the old faction's collapse, the emperor could afford to turn a blind eye to the remaining Bai family members. This was the bone-chilling, tacit understanding between ruler and subject. Only then did it dawn on me. No wonder sneaking into the prison had been so easy. The higher-ups had probably been watching all along. My aunt rubbed her goosebump-covered arm and shook her head. Staking lives on this charade just for favorable history books. Who knows how posterity will judge the truth? The truth will vanish forever in this prison break spectacle, Zhou Ku declared, spreading a map of the Ministry of Justice's layout across the table. Auntie frowned. With General Bai's unyielding temperament, would he truly take his own life as His Majesty wishes? Zhou Ku remained silent, his gaze shifting to me who had been lost in thought. An autumn chill swept violently through the capital, while the hearth fire burned fiercely. He will, I spoke softly. For years I'd called him uncle, this stern, tight-lipped man who showed kindness only to my mother while being strict with all other juniors, yet he never missed sending seasonal gifts to any of the children. When my writing skills remained clumsy, instead of telling me to quit wasting the instructor's time, he gifted me a gentle mare from the northern lands that mid-autumn festival, a patient creature that would never throw me off no matter how slow my progress. In his heart, family always came before everything else. He could forsake power, even life itself, but never would he stand by and watch his family perish with him. My aunt looked at me with sorrow. Xinjin, I bit my lip and lowered my head. After all he'd done to raise me, I could do nothing for him in return. A hand gently rested on my head, giving it a tender rub, as Zhou Ku's hoarse voice spoke, almost as if he'd heard my silent thoughts. He said, protecting his beloved family through your help is all he ever wanted. I looked up, deeply moved. He smiled. Firelight illuminated his face, making the blue beads at his hair ends shimmer brilliantly. 25. The wind howled fiercely on the day of the prison break. Desert sands from the frontier swept over the Great Wall as I joined a ragtag band of vigilantes from all corners of the land, fighting our chaotic way into the Ministry of Justice. First time awkward, second time smooth. I soon found my way to the women's quarters, while my sister and aunt wore worried expressions. Baiyun's face lit up with delight. She saw no trouble in our daring rescue, leaping into my arms with unbridled excitement. Well done, Xinjin, you've really outdone yourself. I forced a smile and urged them to hurry. Wait, father and the others are locked up at the other end, Baiyun said, pulling me along as she snatched keys and a knife from a guard knocked out by the smoke. Flames spread through the corridor as we moved through the thick smoke, successfully freeing my uncle and two cousins. My aunt, keeping close behind, seemed to realize something, her eyes reddening. My sister remained silent the entire way. Baiyun was the only one still naive enough to ask if we'd found the dog. As we reached the prison gates, flames roared inside with signs of imminent collapse. Baiyun turned back in confusion, watching her father lagging behind, reluctant to follow. Dad, what are you standing there for? Come out. In the firelight, her uncle stood in coarse linen robes, gaunt and desolate, offering her a faint smile. Baiyun suddenly understood. She tried to rush forward, but her cousins held her back with desperate strength. She thrashed wildly, let me go. He's your father too. Have you lost your minds, father? Come out. At worst we'll rebel together. I'm not afraid to die as a family, father. The pillar of fire came crashing down at the final moment. Suddenly, my silent aunt rushed forward, stunned. I reached out but failed to stop her. At the critical moment, my sister threw her arms around our aunt, though she'd never laid a finger on my sister before. My distraught aunt accidentally struck her during the struggle. Let me go with him. He's all alone. The road to the underworld seems endless. My aunt threw her head back and wailed. My sister knelt down, holding our struggling aunt firmly against her slender frame, refusing to let go no matter how she resisted. 26. Soon after, my other aunt arrived with reinforcements arranged by the prince. Zhou Ke and our cousin stayed behind to cover our retreat while we escorted the womenfolk to safety. The boat had docked, with armed escorts from the security bureau standing guard, but the ordeal wasn't over. Our uncle made sure none who climbed over the Bai family would survive. He traded his life for our safety, eliminating every last threat with his final breath. He left a secret missive for the Empress Dowager, both a reminder and a warning. The emperor could strip his military power and claim his life, but the Dowager and Princeton were untouchable. He would die content knowing every enemy of House Bai had been accounted for. Thus Cui Hezhou's brief triumph ended when the watchful emperor coldly expelled him from the inner circle of power, but he'd never surrender so easily. On the day of the prison break, he fought tooth and nail to escape alone from that deadly raid. By sheer coincidence, we crossed paths with him on the vast wasteland before boarding the ship, Shenzhen. He called out to me. He claimed we were soulmates across 2 lifetimes, that he'd been waiting for my return, said he finally saw the truth in his heart and had a change of heart. Is this toad out of his damn mind? My aunt wrinkled her nose in disgust. Of everyone present, only I understood what he truly meant. After lifetimes of empty pretenses, perhaps only in this life or death moment, with tears of remorse streaming down his face, did he seem genuine. Yet how could I possibly feel any pity for him? Bai Yun's icy remark echoed my own thoughts. This man deserves to die 1,000 deaths. With that, Bai Yun raised a curled finger to her lips and blew a piercing whistle. 3 powerful black hounds came charging up from the water's edge. I'd hired couriers to track them down. Bai Yun crouched down and firmly stroked the terrifying beast's fur with surprising tenderness. After making sure the hounds recognized Cui Hezhou, she patted their heads and whispered her command, "Go." The black hounds lunged at Cui Hezhou, whose eyes were bulging with terror. Bai Yun stood quietly in the wind, watching. Father gave them to me. Back then, many people forbade me from keeping them, saying such fierce dogs would turn on humans. But father handed them to me and said, dogs take after their masters. He believed the hounds I raised would never harm anyone. She turned to me with tear-filled eyes. But today I must make them hurt people. Would father blame me? After settling our aunt in the cabin, my elder sister emerged behind me and caught the words I hadn't yet spoken. No, she embraced both Bai Yun and me, because you're both protecting your family. Bai Yun sobbed in her sister's embrace for the first time. Biting back tears, I looked at my sister. Her lips were clenched tight, refusing to cry. Tears carry weight, and she had to stay strong to bear everyone's grief. She hugged us younger sisters tightly, shielding us from the bloody scene behind. But sensing Zhou Ke's presence, I turned my head. He charged out with his cousins in tow. Cui Hezhou's leg was mangled and bleeding as he clutched Zhou Ke's sleeve like a drowning man grasping at straws, pleading, "Aku. We're brothers who escaped the pavilion together." My nerves tightened. Zhou Ke looked down at him in silence before speaking. "Second brother. Back at Sky Eagle Pavilion, you taught me that Deathsworn have no brothers. That's why you abandoned my crippled self in the wolf den that night and used the only grappling rope to climb the cliff alone." Zhou Ke crouched down, effortlessly severed his robe's hem, then turned toward me without sparing a glance at Cui Hezhou's wails. Aku has learned much from this lesson. Gradually, Cui Hezhou's cries faded as he lay half-conscious in a pool of blood. The black hound kept tearing at his flesh. At the Skyhawk Pavilion, he served as a lackey for the martial world. Climbing into the imperial court, he became the emperor's hound. Day by day, he grew more obsessed with power plays and held emotions in contempt. In the end, he never truly lived as a human being for a single day. 27. When the dust finally settled, winter had arrived. After burying my uncle, we spent the new year together in Chuzhou. No firecrackers, no red lanterns, just solemn tranquility. On the 15th day of the lunar month, my aunt brought the Bai family children and my sister to pay solemn respects at my family's graves for half a day. Bai Yun regained some composure as I told her about my late sister. She felt a strong kinship with Song Yi. After the new year, when seeing them off to my aunt's hometown, Bai Yun whispered in my ear, "Next spring, I'll come to Chuzhou to teach you swimming." I looked at her and we laughed together. The boat was about to depart. Aunt and the Bai siblings waved at me. My sister gazed at me quietly. She'd already said everything she needed to last night. Last night she returned the coming-of-age dress I'd left behind, along with 4 years' worth of clothing. Each piece was tailored to different measurements, made through her consultations with the nursemaid. She said I'd grown up. that I could understand certain things now. Jen, life is but a fleeting journey. Your footsteps and mine were always meant to move forward. Don't be sad, dear. A part of my heart will always stay with you. I used to say forever so easily, wanting never to be parted from someone, wanting to possess that love eternally. Back then I didn't understand, when one clings to forever, that's when disappointment begins. She's more than just an elder sister. The world has already bound her with too many ropes, and I refused to be another one of them. So there I stood by the riverbank, waving vigorously at the departing boat without shedding a single weak tear. The snow fell so heavily it seemed to freeze the clouds themselves. Beggars huddled together, shivering in dilapidated sheds, while kind-hearted shopkeepers brought them leftover scraps from customers' meals. But thankfully, when I turned around, someone was still waiting for me. Aunt and Joe stood beneath the tree, waiting to take me home. In the misty early spring, the wind stirred damp dust that brushed against the bluish birthmark by my eye. I ran freely toward them, no longer fearing the gust that might expose my mark, no longer bowing my head. This vast world has room for the endless strife of power-hungry schemers, their insatiable quarrels, yet also holds space for the tangled insecurities and wounded hearts of ordinary souls. Truth is, all you need is to lift your head and keep walking forward. In our fleeting century of existence, how many family members under the same roof become passing strangers in life's endless comings and goings, yet how many destined strangers stubbornly carve paths through blizzards of fate, arriving where love awaits to stand together in shared shelter. Never surrender lightly. Only when every possible road has been traveled can one call it a complete life. The end.